Welcome to Crunch Time with Jeff, Booner, Lukas, and Mike.
Yeah,
Wednesday,
baby.
February 21st. If you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate you always. And, of course, if you're a member, we have emojis now. If you didn't tune in last night, the emojis are live. You can use them, emotes, whatever the hell you want to call them. They're live. So you can now spam whatever emoji you'd like. Also, if you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Subscribe, hit the like button as well, and help support us, push the stream out there. If you're listening on any podcast platform, leave a 5-star review, because, of course, we'll take those 5-star reviews, especially if you do enjoy the podcast. But tonight, boys,
baby.
We got a packed show. We got Russell Brown joining the show, NFL Draft Analyst, especially on the Detroit Lions. So we'll talk a lot of draft with him. We got some interesting topics regarding Justin Fields. He joined the St. Brown brothers today. We'll talk a little bit about what he said. Speaking of St. Brown, he also tweeted out something that he also deleted. And it was quote tweeting the 2021 wide receiver draft class, and we're both.
I didn't see this.
We'll debate who's the best wide receiver out of that draft class. I think it was like Devonta Smith. You had Amon-Ra St. Brown. There's a couple good ones in there. We'll have that conversation. But boys, how we feeling tonight?
Beautiful. Feel great today.
I'm feeling good. I was talking to you guys about it like throughout the week when I was at work the other day, and I got this rash on my neck. Like I don't know if you can see it, but I was like, dude, like this thing is like it was getting better, but like this thing needs to be gone. So I go to the urgent care, and I was like, yeah, they'll give me some like pills or maybe like some ointment. They come out, they're like, we're gonna give you this shot real quick, and I hate shots to begin with, but then the urgent care nurse comes out with like a needle. And dude, I was spinning. Like I hate needles. She right in the shoulder. My day, I was sore for a good half hour. I'm just my anxiety, man.
Hey, I'm gonna throw something out there real quick, Lucas. Maybe you should stop going to that spot you keep going to.
I was at work and it was just like this.
But like you might have gotten the rash from a place that you talk about all the time.
This is
maybe
worse.
You shouldn't go there anymore.
You know he's not going to quit going there.
All right, just keep the rash then. Do you want the needles or do you want the rash?
Hey, that's the old. That's old Lucas. All right.
It is.
We do things.
You're gonna see the rash go away as you stop going there.
It's probably just from just being. That's just
that would be funny as hell, though.
Hey, Justin Gentry became a Crunch member. Look at that.
Hey, shout out.
Let's go, Justin Gentry, man.
Shout out, Justin, man.
Yeah,
shout out to everyone who.
Good day today, though. To be honest,
Yeah,
I had a great day. I've been looking forward to the show all day long, so I'm ready to talk some football and some Detroit Lions, baby.
Dude, I legit went all yesterday thinking it was Wednesday yesterday, and that's Thursday. I literally was
on the same schedule as you there with that, Gentry.
Dude, I'm a little fucked up, but we move. We'll be all right.
It's because there was no football Sunday, so it's like this is like our first like Sunday with no football. It's just a weird. It's a weird week. It feels really weird.
Yeah, for sure.
But we got the people joining us as always. I'm going to try and get to who joined first. I always try to do that every single show. We got Anakin Skyogre. Good evening, guys. He was the first one in the chat room. ETN, Vincent Ellison. Of course, we got Justin Gentry, who just became a member. We appreciate you for that. We got Sean, Eduardo, as always. We got Detroit Grit, who actually just became a member yesterday. So appreciate that as well. But before we get to Russell Brown here, because he's going to be joining us very, very soon. Did you guys watch the Justin Fields thing about why he unfouled the Bears? Did you see that clip?
I did. Yeah,
I did not.
Watch the whole thing, honestly.
I thought it was, dude, that podcast is going to take off because that everyone's wondering, especially with the trade rumors coming out. But I think his response was, and Lucas, you'll appreciate this. What'd he say? He goes, just because I'm out, it's like a chick. He goes, just because I'm not following a chick doesn't mean I don't mess with her. Like, just because I'm not following the Chicago Bears doesn't mean I don't mess with them. Like,
that's what you say to the chick when she asks, why are you not following her? But deep down, to get to that stage, because you were following her at first, you're all excited in the honeymoon stage. You're a rookie. Looks like you could potentially be something. But then when you really get in the nitty-gritty of the relationship and you see where it's going, you get a little disinterested. So maybe that's still his girl, but that's not who he's interested in. I can tell you that much. He's got his eyes elsewhere.
It's over.
That's a contradictory statement right there.
Yeah, and he said some interesting things, too. He said Pittsburgh is a top 3 stadium he's played in. They asked Amon-Ra, asked him, why are you following Drake London? Like, I love Amon-Ra because he's a crap starter, which he's like, why are you following Drake London? He's like, I like him. And you can tell he was smiling. He's like, I like him. So he's like throwing hints at the same time of like, hey, I like Pittsburgh this, Atlanta this, but I like Chicago. Like he's played it smart. Like I appreciate that out of Justin Fields. Because I'll just say this: Atlanta makes a ton of sense. But if I'm Atlanta, I'd prefer Kirk Cousins. Like I would rather have a veteran quarterback. That's just me. But yeah, I would think Justin Fields is good as gone. I just think it's a matter of time.
I think it's the whole situation in Chicago is done with him. They're going Caleb Williams. It's like it's over. Him doing that as well, it kind of plays the hand. Like the Bears kind of probably wanted to play their hand. Like this is what we're gonna do. Him doing that basically just shows like, all right, that relationship's done. Like the Bears aren't going to trade the number 1 overall pick. They have no leverage with everything. Like just go get Caleb Williams and move on. I think no matter what, if he goes to Atlanta or Pittsburgh, I think it's a good position for him. I do. I'm with you, Jeff. I think for him, it's better in Atlanta, but obviously they're going to have some choices as well. And same with Pittsburgh. But I think wherever Fields goes, I think it's a better situation than having Brian Eberflus or whatever his name is over in Chicago.
Don't disrespect Matt now. Don't disrespect that man.
Did you guys see he also said that Anzalone was a big shit talker and that Anzalone was a dirty player and that Germ was a big shit talker and stuff like that.
Shout out the boys, man.
Germ's out there getting
Shout out the boys, man. Let's go.
Anzalone getting labeled as a dirty player, though.
But Enzo, I don't know about a dirty player. Like, I can't remember. I'm surprised he didn't talk about Kirby as much noise that's around that. But I don't know. Enzo, as far as a tone setter, he's so underrated. Everybody, especially like me, talk about the CJ Gardner-Johnson, what he does. But if you watch Enzo and just the way he flies around the field, he runs his mouth, but it's after he makes a play. And I don't think he goes overboard with it, but he definitely gets in the head of opposing players for sure.
I could be wrong, but with linebackers and stuff, like I feel like it's always going to be like a guy like Enzo, who's like the leader of that team, and he's flying around, like you said, Lucas, on defense, and like he's like the heart of that defense. Like gets like misinterpreted for dirty instead of just like him just flying around and just being that dude. Like I feel like a lot of linebackers around the league might get that little that dirty tag, but it's just really not it. But I mean, I can't speak. I mean, that's Justin Fields, who plays against him twice a year. So like I don't know how Amon-Ra responded to it and how he kind of approached that after that. But I can't see Anso being a dirty. Like, come on. That's the first guy to ever bring that up.
Germ being a shit talker. Obviously, he's not out there every single play. So him being a special teams guy, you know, when he gets out there and does make a play, him, you know, getting in people's ears, making them hear it. So that's kind of cool to hear. I know Lucas, you know, big fan of Germ.
Oh, yeah. Have to be. There's no reason not to.
Bring that man home.
He contributes. It's only good play.
Keep him home.
Definitely one of the guys we need to be looking on re-signing. Means more than what it seems with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, get Andrew Van Ginkel. Is that Andrew Van Ginkel?
Yeah, Andrew Van Gink.
And you get Alex Anzalone. You got a bunch of dudes.
They would look like twins out there.
Oh my God.
You wouldn't be able to identify the two.
Hey, tell Jack Campbell, grow out the hair. Now you got 3 linebackers, all pretty much identical.
Hey, that's too. Have Hutch get the blonde flow
just
going.
3 white dudes with long hair.
Just throw out a whole team of Thors out there.
Oh man. Well,
hey Booner, you know what time it is?
Well,
Big John, number 77. Let's go, baby. Shout out Big John, man.
It is that time. We'll be having our good friend here, Russell Brown, joining the show, which I'm personally excited for. We're getting things wrapped up, and he was able to take the time out. He's a busy man during this time of year, but Russell Brown joins the program, so I want to go ahead and welcome into the show. Russell, my guy, and you guys know Russell, of course, NFL draft analyst at Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros. He does work for the Lions Wire, 1027 The Fanatic, a Detroit Lions podcast. The man's heard everywhere, and you know him, Russell Brown. What up, Russ? How you doing tonight?
What's up, brother? How are you?
Dude, I'm good. We're very happy to have you on. We had Scott on last week, and I think this is the perfect time. You guys are crushing it. I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing. I want to start off by just kind of asking you, and I asked Scott this, and I'm curious for just your 2 different answers. Is there anybody that you kind of been just watching so far that you don't think is getting enough of a spotlight, maybe that Lions fans will fall in love with closer to the draft, but someone that stuck out to you?
I'm distracted. I got to turn off the comments here on the program. Everybody's comment, like, I'm getting big dick Russ here. Like, what is going on? You will be greatly disappointed. Let me just tell you. But no, you know, Kamari Lassiter is the first player that comes to mind. I'm probably going to be higher on him than most players. And I know we're going to probably talk about defensive backs a little bit. But I think he's one of those. If he's there at 29, you kind of sprint to the podium. I don't know if he's going to be there. I think the league could potentially be higher on him. That means now he's going to go in the second round because I said that. But I think he's just a physical press man defender. He loves to initiate contact. I dropped a kind of film piece highlighting some of those tackles and the ability that he has in coverage. I just love the way he reacts, the way he closes. He's only 21 years of age. So I think when you look at the youth piece of it, you get a guy that you're going to be able to develop. And I think there's just a lot of potential with him. I love his skill set. Another player, Gabe Murphy out of UCLA, an edge rusher. His teammate, Latu, is definitely a guy that gets a lot of love, and rightfully so. But I really think when you watch Gabriel Murphy, he is just different from the prototypical 6'3", sub 250 edge rusher. You know, the arm length is always going to come into play, but when you watch him, he's got a relentless motor. He works his hands so efficiently. He reminds me a lot of Alex Highsmith, who's part of the Steelers. So I love his skill set. I don't know if he'll be a first-round pick. I think that's probably a little rich, but when you do like a mock draft simulator, he's sitting there at like pick 200. And I'm like, there's just no way he's going to be available at pick 200. I think he's going to end up becoming easily a top 75, top 100 pick after next week.
Oh, come on!
I knew Jeff had to say something about that.
I love this one. You know what, Russ? You go on, Booner. I wanted to just let that.
When you said that, I knew right away. I was like, "That's Jeff's guy." Jeff's been talking about him for a few days now. He loves him. Hey, Russ, appreciate you joining. I have a kind of a specific player I want to bring up here, and I've been talking about him on our show a couple of days. And Nick, that we had on from the Honolulu Blues, I think you know him pretty well, but he brought it up as well. But you guys down at the Senior Bowl, T'Vondre Sweat was down there and kind of showed out a little bit. And I know Byron Murphy's like the big name there when it comes to Texas, but T'Vondre Sweat, Defensive Player of the Year in the Big 12, like that's a guy to me. I've been talking to these guys about and like really just kind of hyping up going in the second round, late kind of in that area. Do you think that's someone that Brad Holmes kind of targets, or what are your thoughts on him?
I think so. I mean, obviously we all know that it's about the interview room. So I don't know necessarily how he's going to interview. I've not heard anything as far as specifics as character wise, but I think the player speaks for himself. I think he is a guy that could easily be a top 50, top 60 player in this draft just because of the way he works his hands. And when we look at defensive tackles that are listed at, 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", similar to how he is, and he's listed at 362 pounds, to see the movement at that size, it's ridiculous. And I thought there were times he flashed on tape where he just looked more efficient and better than Byron Murphy. And I think that's really what Detroit needs, just somebody that can go in next to Aleem McNeil. You don't need the guy to be better than him, but if you bring him in, I think you can plug and play him. He's going to be a force in the run game. You're going to have to put 2 blockers on him at a time, and that's going to free up McNeil or Hutch or Pascal, Kaminsky, whoever's going to play on the opposite side of Hutchinson. So I think it would be a great fit, and they might have to move up to do it, but I think when you look at what the draft capital is on day 2, we know Brad Holmes is going to get frisky somewhere. Is it first round? Is it second round? If it's the second round, I think Sweat would make a lot of sense if they wanted to move up there. So I'd be fine with it. I just want to put resources in the defense.
I love that. I love
Russ,
that.
and nice to finally meet you, by the way. But talking about the defensive side of the ball and needing resources, they just let go of Tracy Walker yesterday. And there's a lot of noise of C.J. Gardner-Johnson potentially not being re-signed. So as far as in the draft, do you see Brad Holmes making a move for a safety, whether it's the first, second, third round? And if you do, what prospect kind of stick out to you at that position?
Well, nice meeting you as well, brother. But I mean, I think there's a couple of different guys. And it's funny, I've been thinking this for the last, day or so since they've announced that move. I do think safety and obviously corner both are needs in a sense. I mean, I know we have Ifeatu Melifonwu. We know we have Kirby Joseph. Do we bring back Gardner Johnson? It just felt like this team, the way that they were investing in the safety position, it just kind of felt like they were going to come out with more nickel and dime package looks. And they really stuck to their base and nickel packages. So I'm curious, do they look at that safety position? I'm with you. And if they do, I think Kalen Bullock from USC would make a lot of sense. I think he fits kind of the mold of defensive backs that they're looking for. 6'3", $185, $190. He had 2 picks and 7 or 8 pass deflections this year, but he's got really good range. He's got length. I think he's going to test really well. And it wouldn't surprise me if he actually ends up going sooner than probably where you're seeing him go today. I think after he tests and the things that he does, I think he's going to really stand out. Kind of a sleeper for me would be Tyke Smith out of Georgia. He kind of lives in the shadows of his teammate Javon Bullard, and rightfully so. Bullard would be another good fit. But I think when we look at the way the Lions like to use some of these safeties in this apex role and in that nickel role, I think Smith really stood out with the way he closed and the way he came upfield and attacked in the run game. I think in those split safety looks, those 2 high safety looks, he's going to probably carve a role out there as well. Size is the only concern with him. So if he checks in and he's a little bit bulkier, or he's able to test really well and he can add some muscle to his frame, I think teams would be very intrigued by him. And I think Detroit, we know how they work. Brad Holmes, he's working in the weeds here. So I think a player like that might just be off everybody's radar right now, but he ends up going, 3rd round to us, and he ends up becoming a pretty good player.
Russ, thanks for joining us, brother. Love the hat. I haven't seen you in a minute. It's been probably since Jameson Williams got drafted, and that was quite the reaction we had that night. But
how drunk are we, huh?
Yeah. We're not going to answer that on here. Maybe we'll do it again sometime. But, obviously, edge rusher, a position of need. Don't really know how much Brad values that as far as the draft goes and if he's going to sign someone. But this draft really doesn't have that much depth at the position. Is there really any guys that you've that have caught your eye that may fit what the Lions are looking for?
For what position was that? You broke up a little bit.
Edge.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very top heavy. I doubt Jared Verse or Latu or obviously Dallas Turner. I don't think that those guys become available to us. I mentioned a little bit about Gabe Murphy. I think he's an interesting one. He tore it up at the Shrine Bowl down there in Dallas. So I'll be curious where he ends up falling. But ultimately, I think a player that might fit is one that I saw at the Senior Bowl, and that's Chris Braswell out of Alabama. I love his skill set. The countering ability that he has it's just different from a lot of the edge rushers in this class. He's not overly big. I mean, we're talking a 6'3", 255-pound edge rusher, more power than speed. But I like the length from him. I like the way that he goes to power first and then is able to actually transition to speed. It's almost the opposite of those speed to power type of edge rushers. And then just the fluidity with his hands to long arm and then counter with an arm over move inside or outside. I think he's just different. And I think he would be a really good fit with kind of the mold and the defensive ends that they go with. I mean, we see them going with kind of these 6'3", 260, 265-pound defensive ends. Some are 6'4", 6'5", but you think of like Pascal, those day 2 defensive ends, Levi Ozarike, he kind of fits into that mold, and I think he's a little bit more fluid than both of those guys. Isn't really predominantly a 3-tech, a 4-eye, a 5 technique. He's going to play outside shoulder of tight ends and offensive tackles and just be a really good fit as an edge rusher. So I think it's, a little bit top heavy as far as edge rushers go when you got through the top 3. But I think as you go down, I think players like Braswell and Gabriel Murphy make a lot of sense. I did not mention Chop Robinson, and there's a reason for that. I don't see it with him. So if anybody wants to roast me in the comments, go ahead. But you're betting on a guy to try to get home all the time, and he did it 4 times, twice against UMass this past year. So that doesn't translate to success for me. But that's just me personally. I don't know.
Russ, I want to ask you too, because Scott brought up the idea of potentially drafting a tackle at 29 or trading up to get a tackle and moving him to guard, kicking him back out maybe after Decker departs. I want your thoughts on some of the offensive linemen that could be there for the Lions. And I know one guy that gets consistently brought up, the center/guard, Jackson Powers Johnson. I'll ask you first about Jackson Powers Johnson. Where do you think he goes? And is there any chance the Lions they'll be able to take him, or are they going to have to move up? And if they're going to have to move up, how much do you think they'll have to move up to get a guy like that?
Certainly he could be available. I mean, there was a lot of speculation last year after the Senior Bowl that John Michael Schmitz from Minnesota was going to end up being a first-round pick. He ended up going in the 2nd round to the New York Giants. So obviously anything can happen if Powers Johnson, doesn't have a good 20-yard shuttle time or just doesn't look as fluid at the combine as he did at the Senior Bowl or on tape. there's a chance he slips a little bit and falls to our lap at 29. I am with Scott, and we both have agreed that we think offensive line is very much in play for us in the first round. I know fans don't want to hear that because of the defense, but at the same time, it's a need. I mean, we're betting on Taylor Decker to continue to stay healthy and battle through injury. The same thing with Frank Ragnow. Jonah Jackson, who knows if he's coming back? Personally, I don't think he is. I think if he was, he would have already signed, because from my understanding, he had a contract extension offered to him back in like July or August, and he did not sign. And then if they don't bring back Graham Glasgow, I mean, we potentially could need 2 starting guards. So offensive line is a sneaky need for this team. So is Powers Johnson there? There's a chance, right? I mean, but if he's not, and I don't think he will be, just simply because of the way that the trend has been going for him and everyone you talk to, he's the top interior offensive lineman in the draft. I look at Miami, I look at Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. I think in that range somewhere, he makes a lot of sense. Maybe even the Rams, just to give protection for Stafford and try to help that window that they have. But if they ended up not going that route with Jackson Powers Johnson, the guy that I could see at pick 29, he fits Dan Campbell. He fits Brad Holmes. He's kind of straight and narrow, head down, grinding type of guy. That's Graham Barton out of Duke. I love this kid. He's a 5-position, versatile type player. You'll watch him. He can play center. He can play guard. He primarily played left tackle for them. He does a lot of tackle over stuff, but he's a strong finisher. He operates so well in space. We were supposed to see him at the Senior Bowl. He did not actually participate in anything, but I think we'll see him at the combine. And I think he's one of those guys that he's going to test well. He's a former lacrosse player. He's just a multi-sport, good athlete that's strong, physical, aggressive. He fits everything that they're looking for with the gap and zone scheme that they run. So I think he'd be a great fit at 29.
Love it.
Russ,
my fault, Booner.
Another thing I have here too, real quick, is the thing that we've seen from Brad, especially the last 2 seasons, is him making these moves in the draft, like trading back to get Jahmyr Gibbs trading into the second round, like just making all of these moves. Are there a couple guys that you feel like kind of on your board that are like Dan Campbell guys where you're like, hey, he could trade either back in the first or kind of move up in the first? I know the Powers Johnson, or if they're even in the second round, getting back into the second round for another guy, because I know we have 4 top 100 picks. That's been going all over social media today. Like, do you see him actually making moves this year? Obviously, he doesn't have as many picks as he's had in the past, but I still feel like there's going to be a chance we see him do something on draft night.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know if he does anything in the first round. I would be really curious what he does on day 2 of the draft. I think is really going to be the sweet spot just because of the capital. And I don't think they're going to want to give up a ton of assets in the first round to move from let's say 29 to, 18 or 19. I think that jump is too significant. But if he was to kind of move up, some players that just kind of stand out as potential Brad Holmes guys. At defensive back, Mike Sandstro from Michigan, dog, right? I mean, Michigan fans on this show, they know all about him. The guy's just always around the football. You can discredit his size, but you can't discredit the player and the ability that he has on the field. 5'10", $180, 6 pass deflections, 6 picks this year. I mean, just big hits, nickel, outside corner, maybe a little overhang as a safety. There's so much to love with him. I could see him getting aggressive and moving up for a guy like him if he was their top ranked corner or defensive back on day 2 of the draft. The same thing with Max Melton out of Rutgers. I think he's a really talented player that I got to talk with and just very knowledgeable. I love the way he carried himself. His dad was a former player back in the day. His brother plays for the Packers. I feel like there's probably somewhere where Brad Holmes connects the dots to like there's probably some way that he's like connected to his dad somehow. It always seems to be that way with 1 or 2 players in every draft. I think Cam Hart from Notre Dame's another one, really smart kid, really patient, plays square, an outside corner. I think moving up for kind of those guys, if we want to get sexy, I mean, if Lions fans want something a little sexy, could I see them move up for like Brian Thomas or Adonai Mitchell somewhere in the first round? I could. I don't know how big of a need wide receiver will be in the first round. We have to obviously see what happens with free agency, but I could see them taking a liking to one of those two guys just simply because of the size. They're both 6'4", 200, 205-pound receivers that move really well for that size. They've kind of got that basketball movement. Adonai Mitchell is one of those guys that can cross guys over with ease with the way he runs his routes. He can big body receivers. So I love his skill set. I'm higher on Adonai Mitchell. So if they got cute and sexy on the first night of the draft, could it be for a receiver if Josh Reynolds is done, if Khalif Raymond is going to be out for even longer because of a knee injury and potential surgery or whatever happens with that? I haven't really researched on Khalif Raymond, but we got to pay St. Brown. We have a need for a receiver. So could it be something like that? I could see, that trade up on day one.
No, and another guy, you just listed off a couple corners that you fell in love with, and somebody that I've fallen in love with as the draft process goes on is TJ Tampa out of Iowa State. Now, I'm really high on him. I think he's very fluid. He reminds me of Xavier Howard, just the way that he plays on the field. Because if I'm wrong and you're like, I don't really know about TJ Tampa, what do you think about TJ Tampa, and where do you think he falls in the draft?
I think it's a great question. I think I'm not going to, I respect your opinion on him. I don't like him as much as other people. Okay. Just the player itself, just the talent that I've seen. I think he's very fluid. I'm with you there. I think he checks off the boxes in regards to fluidity, getting in the hip pocket and being able to run with guys. But he was very similar to me when it came to tackling, very similar to Kalen King. I thought he struggled with that. I only watched 2 games on him, so I'm not as deep. So if there's a game where it's like he's laying people out, please point that game to me because I would love to watch it. I've only got 2 games on Iowa State defense, so I've only watched those 2 games. And there were just times where he just looked disinterested in tackling. And Kalen King out of Penn State was the worst tackling corner I think I've ever seen. Not trying to dog a guy from Detroit, but he was terrible. And Tampa was pretty close to that in the film that I had watched. But that does not mean he can't cover. If you need him to be a cover corner, that's what he's going to be. And I think if you took him in the second round, that's fine. I don't agree with him at pick 29. If they traded back and then they took him, I'm all for it. And he could be awesome. He could be Xavier Howard. I have plenty of swings and misses. So if he proves me wrong, cool. I just did not get as interested in his tape through 2 games as I was hoping, because I've seen the buzz. I've heard the good things, and I'm looking and I'm like, this isn't it, bro. So not discrediting you. That's my take on it.
No, that's fair, because at the same time, I wanted some more, because obviously I'm all on the hype train about it. So if there's a train, because I haven't really seen much pushback from him, so that's where I kind of wanted to get. So I appreciate that, and definitely will look into it more, because when I was watching him, he was making some big hits, but it was after the ball was caught. It never really was in the run game. So I'll definitely have to look into that more, to your point.
And Russ, obviously, he was on the St. Brown podcast earlier, Justin Fields. If you were in the Bears position, what are you doing with that first overall pick? Are you keeping Fields? Are you trading Fields? And if you were to trade him, where is the best landing spot or fit for Fields, do you think?
Yeah, I feel pretty confident in saying that Justin Fields won't be back, so I'm maybe a little bit biased in that. But I would, as much as I like Fields, and I know he's only 24, the fact that he's, getting into year 4 here, he's gone 10-28. That's his career win-loss record. He hasn't won enough games. I think the sample size speaks for itself. He doesn't make a bunch of big throws, and he's just one of those players that you take away his mobility. What type of quarterback is he? Not saying that's the bad thing. Mobility is very important for a quarterback, but I think when you have an opportunity to take a player like Caleb Williams, I think you have to just you have to roll with him, and you have to hit that reset button and take advantage of that rookie quarterback window of 4 to 5 years on that rookie deal, because you take Fields, or if you keep Fields and he ends up not being the guy, and then you have no quarterback, or you have to pay him. Now we're talking about paying him $30-40 million to potentially win you 7 or 8 games. I don't know if that's the recipe for success if I'm Chicago. So I think they're going to take Caleb Williams. I feel pretty good about that. I think if anything, they take a defender with that 9th pick, or they try to move that pick a little bit if there's a quarterback that ends up sliding, or they just feel like they can get some additional draft capital. But the longer they hold on to Fields, the longer the worse his value gets. And I think teams like Pittsburgh, Atlanta would be very interested in trying to give up a day 2 pick for him.
I want to ask you, Russ, too, before you go, just your thoughts, because I asked Scott this, and we talk a lot about J.J. McCarthy, and I know the first round discussion is heating up more and more. The more we talk about it, Russ, the two best fits to me are Denver and Seattle. But what say you? Because I think if you look at the situations in their own right, like you got Sean Payton, I think the type of quarterback JJ is, although I don't know if he's ready to start, maybe you disagree with that. I think the situationally with Sean Payton, what kind of quarterback he's looking for, I think JJ fits exactly what he's looking for. And then I think Seattle, for obvious reasons, the Mike McDonald connection, he knows JJ more than any other head coach does. But what say you on JJ? Where are you at with JJ and maybe the best fit for him in the first round?
I like JJ. I do. I can see why people have kind of fallen in love with him. I think he's, an underrated athlete. I think he's very mobile for his size as far as, 6'3", 200 pounds. The RPO stuff that he does is very underrated. He does a great job holding on to that ball, making those edge rushers and scrape linebackers really bite on the fake, and then he pulls it and takes it. I think it's great. I think the arm strength is there. There's times where it looks limited. He doesn't always throw to the middle of the field, and he doesn't always have, the touch. He throws more fastballs than anything. He's got to get that changeup in there. But if there's a coach in the NFL that can get him right, I think it would be Sean Payton. So I would be very intrigued to see that fit in Denver. Personally, though, I've heard Minnesota. I heard that about 2 weeks ago coming out of the Senior Bowl, and Kevin O'Connell just being very admired by him. And I think when you look at what they did with Josh Dobbs and the uncertainty around Kirk Cousins, I think JJ in Minnesota with those weapons and potentially having a chance to build up that offensive line a little bit, I think it's a recipe for success in a fast-paced offense that can score some points. So I think Denver makes a lot of sense, but really I would be, if I'm a Lions fan, I'd be a little worried about Minnesota getting JJ just simply off of what I've heard, and I think it's a great fit. So I definitely think he's going to be a first rounder. I think he's going to be a top 15 pick at this point. Maybe I'm eating crow in a couple of months, but I really do think he's made more money himself by not being at the Senior Bowl and the Shrine Bowl than Bo Nix and Michael Penix did by going to the Senior Bowl. So that's kind of where I'm at with JJ. And again, top 15, it almost feels like a lock at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think next year the Lions are going to have two rookies in your division and a second-year starter. Like that's where we're at. But great stuff for us, man. We appreciate you. I know you got to get out of here. You jump from one show, you're on the next show. You can hear Russ everywhere, man. He's the go-to guy for the draft. You can check him out. Again, like I said, he's an NFL draft analyst at Fantasy Pros and Betting Bros. And, of course, he does work for the Lions Wire and 1027 The Fanatic. Russ, I appreciate you a ton, man. We got to get you back on here. You're one of the best guys I know in terms of everything, the Lions and the draft and offseason. So we got to get you next time, man. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Russ.
Appreciate it, guys. Keep grinding. Don't let people bring you down. Keep doing what you're doing. And we'll do this again soon. Appreciate it, guys.
Appreciate you, Russ.
Man, Russ is what a dude.
Legend, smart.
Taking notes. Taking notes.
I've got so many notes over here, like just a legend. Like I've had like 2 pages of notes. I was like, wait a
Booner
second.
Notes.
Yeah, I've got a lot. I like taking notes, dude. I like learning a little bit. And Russ is like, dude, like him and Scott, like these guys know what they're doing, man. Like,
yeah, I mean, Russ has been. He goes to the Senior Bowl. He's active. He watches a ton of tape. Like, he loves ball.
He's doing it for a while too.
Ball. Like even like we learned a lot. Like I learned more about TJ Tampa. I learned a lot about Kamari Lassiter. I learned about Devontae Sweat. Like that's what I love having guests. We say this every time. Have a guest that educates you. You know what I mean? Not just repeating what everyone else is saying.
Just getting like views from different like viewpoints. Like just, you know what I mean? Like hearing about what other people feel about different players. Like we've heard TJ Tampa a lot. Lucas, like, and then getting his perspective on him to be able to kind of get him a better idea. So
I mean, I think hey, Lucas, the guests have been speaking to your wheelhouse lately. I needed a little bit of love on that Kamari.
Yeah, you needed that Lassiter.
A little bit of love.
Out of nowhere, too, man. His favorite player, Kamari.
He brought up Braswell too, and he was my first pick in my mock.
There you go.
That I didn't make a trade in.
Man.
Because you're a man, right? Because you don't trade in the draft.
You don't trade in mock drafts. We don't trade in mock drafts.
Brad Holmes. Do you think if Brad Holmes were to make a mock draft, do you think he would trade?
I don't think he would. He would try and draft from where he is.
I disagree.
I think Brad Holmes is like 3 for 3 trading.
Brad Holmes is a playmaker, Gentry. You're conservative. You're a game manager. Brad Holmes is a playmaker.
Oh my God.
All right, I'm gonna cut Gentry. I got you. I'm gonna cut this off right now.
Right, fair,
Come on,
fair,
Phil.
fair.
Get together,
Fair,
Lucas.
fair.
He's still
Get
not
that rash
logging on to
together, brother.
PFF and making 3 trades in a 4-round mock draft. He's not doing that. He's built different. He's elite. He just does it as it is. He's making steals at the picks.
So, real quick, I mean, this is a hard thing to transition. Talking about how Gentry's a game manager. I don't know how to transition off of that, but I will say,
it's still a skill. It's still a skill.
Hey, Gentry, hit him with the buddy real quick.
Buddy, chill.
Oh, yeah.
You don't do
like
that,
buddy.
Don't do that,
well,
pal.
CBS came
All right,
out with their coaching ranks in the NFL, which I thought this was super interesting. It's ranking coaching staffs in the NFL, and they have different, word choices for, to describe the group of coaches. So the top coaches entering next season, they call it the cream of the crop. The cream of the crop. And first, it's the Baltimore Ravens, which, I get that. I don't hate that at all. Todd Monken, Zach Orr, we'll see. He just got promoted. Mike McDonald left. You're going to like this one, Lucas. Cream of the crop. Cleveland Browns, head coach. Kevin Stefanski, offensive coordinator. Ken Dorsey, defensive coordinator. Jim Schwartz.
You said it, Booner.
I'll keep going.
By the way, too, I just want to know, this is alphabetical, fellas. I just realized. So.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
I just wanted to make sure
one.
people didn't realize that this was in order. That the Browns.
I thought it was in order.
No,
it is
I
not
just
in
want to
order.
let people know.
No, this is the best coaches they think coaching trees. Okay, so not coaching trees, but coaching staffs. They have the Lions, head coach Dan Campbell, offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, and defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. All right, we'll go down. I just want to see what else they got. They got D'Amico Ryans, Bobby Slowick, which I have a man crush on. He's a stud. And then defensive coordinator Matt Burke. And then they have Kansas City, obviously Matt Nagy. He ain't the OC though. And then defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo. And then there's another category which they talk about pretty good, but come with questions. But we'll stick with the Lions though. The Lions made this list, and they have right here below the names listed. They write the Lions are going to run it back yet again with Campbell, Johnson, and Glenn. Detroit lived up to the hype in 2023 by matching a franchise high 12 regular season wins, and the Lions came one good half. That sucks to hear that again. One good half away from playing in a Super Bowl. Johnson and Glenn were both regarded as two of the more popular candidates on the coaching carousel, but ultimately both are back in Detroit for 2024. Glenn's defense was one of the best units statistically, but NFL players ranked him as the number one defensive coordinator on the second annual NFLPA team report card project. With Campbell in charge and consistency across the board as coordinator, the Lions, without a doubt, have one of the best coaching staffs in the NFL. So, and we mentioned this too, when all this stuff, when it was announced the guys were coming back, that that's actually, that's a very underrated part of a good football team. When you're able to keep your coordinators, that doesn't happen. Now you still have to prepare for what life looks like after Ben Johnson and what it looks like after Aaron Glenn, which that's something that many Lions fans don't want to think about. But boys, this is an advantage. We just brought up the coordinators. Most of those coaching trees, besides Kansas City, because it's a little different. Spags isn't going nowhere, and Nagy, no one wants Nagy right now. But those guys, they're returning, and it's a great thing for Lions, for Lions fans and the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's massive. We said that yesterday. Having a guy like Dan Campbell and then a Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn returning, that takes you to a different level. You typically, in today's NFL, guys are just constantly getting new jobs. And when this coaching carousels come around, you see guys just constantly moving and moving. You see it in the 49ers, the Rams, all these new coaching trees are getting built, and the Detroit Lions somehow are keeping their guys. I'm not going to lie to you guys, Jim, to be really honest here real quick. When I looked at the prep here, I thought that this segment was about the Detroit Lions adding new coaches to their staff. So I have a whole page of notes of the new staff that they had and the old staff that's out.
Damn notes.
So I'm gonna tie it all in together too, because on top of that, guys, on AG and Ben Johnson returning, I don't know if you guys noticed today though, but the Lions are starting to bring in all these new coaches, and they're letting go of some of these positional coaches. And to me, the way I kind of look at this, fellas, and you guys might disagree with me, Dan Campbell right now is working he is locked in. You just went to an NFC Championship game and you're switching up your staff. You're keeping your main guys, but you're in there. You're looking at the defensive line, the DB's coach, the corners coach. All of those guys are going to be new coaches in there. So he looked at literally what was going wrong, and that's what makes the staff so good. And that's why Dan Campbell and this staff is on this list, is because they make moves like that. And like, they went out there and got new position coaches that are going to go out there and dominate, and like actual dudes who are going to help this team be better. So I think they're going out there getting the best of the best. Like, this is why we said the Detroit Lions now have that 5 or 6 year window, is because of things like this. Like, you're bringing back AG and Ben Johnson this year when both of them were top head coaching candidates. Like, literally both of them were like, we all thought that there was no chance. If you asked me 2 months ago, they're gone. Like a month ago, they're gone.
No, that's
no,
facts.
I mean, I always thought that Aaron Glenn was going to be staying around, to your point. Like, he was going to, like Jeff always said, like, he's going to get interviews, but he's not going anywhere. But the fact that both of them, including Ben Johnson, which is significant, is back, the thing that just is the most important part of that culture, especially in the coaching department, is not changing whatsoever. Everything that they left off on as far as the playbook, they can now expand on their defensive and offensive playbook even more than they were already. So to have those two coming back, there's none of that, oh, okay, we got a new OC. It's going to take 3, 4, 5, 6 games for it finally click. And maybe it doesn't. You look like the Philadelphia Eagles. That's not going to happen in the Detroit Lions. They're going to pick up right where they left off. And it's because of the culture. And it's because of the personnel that they're continue to prove on for these coaches to have.
Yeah. And obviously, the players' coaches really aren't named right there, but Mark Brunell, Hank Fraley, and obviously the defensive player coaches, those guys have been a huge help and whatnot. And it really speaks to Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell for getting the right guys in the room, right guys that players want to listen to and whatnot. So Brad's just done a great job. Dan's done a great job getting like legitimate players, coaches that guys want to listen to in the room.
Yeah, and I see people chiming in here too, just about the whole, Ben Johnson stuff. And Zach says Ben Johnson's career would have been over if Eminem dissed him. I don't know what that implies there. But regardless, yeah, when I first saw this, like the biggest thing to me for Detroit having one of the best coaching staffs in the NFL, we're so used to Detroit being a place where coaches go to die. Like, this is not normal that you get assistant coaches, the hires right, because that doesn't happen, but that coaches want to return. Like, that's where it is significant. And I want to ask you guys too, like, is there any concern with life after Ben Johnson? Do you guys have any concern? I mean, there's concern, but what's your level of concern? Like a life after, but because he's leaving. It's only a matter of time.
Out of 10, I would say like a 6 or a 7. And I know that it's like right in the middle, but I just think like it's you've seen a lot of like Dan Campbell's found like he didn't, I'm not going to say he brought Ben Johnson and he did, like Ben was here, I think, when he got here and he have elevated him. But I think like Dan's going to be able to go out there and find someone, whether it's Tanner or whoever it is. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say like I'm like 10 out of 10 concerned. Like, yes, obviously you're losing probably one of the best OCs in the NFL. Like, that is a concern for sure. But does that mean Dan can't go out there and get someone else? Like, Dan helped Ben Johnson become Ben Johnson as well at the end of the day. Like, I know Ben would, like, I get that, but like he did do that. So like he could help do that with Tanner, or he'll go out and find someone else, or he'll go bring a new OC in. So I do still think like you still have Brad Holmes and you still have Dan Campbell, you'll still have Jared Goff, and you'll still have that core. When Ben leaves, you're still going to have those guys. It's about just finding. And like there were struggles with Ben Johnson this last year down the stretch too, guys. Like we all talked about it. There were some situations where we were like, what is he doing? So he wasn't perfect as well.
Go ahead. I thought you were leaving.
Do you kind of know where I'm going? Do you know?
I mean, I would say for me personally, I'm going to say like an 8 or a 9, at least for year one, because to your point, Booner, that Ben Johnson did struggle, but that's saying something within itself. So now when you have a new offensive coordinator who doesn't have all this chemistry and who really cannot do the things that Ben Johnson does when he's struggling, what does that look like now?
You just called Ben Johnson a god, basically.
What do you say?
What you just said is like because he struggled, it wasn't on Ben, it was the players. So
no, but there's differences. Like think about when Andy Reid struggles to compared when Matt Patricia struggled. There's levels to struggling, and there's still ways that because they're struggling, okay, and how can I fix it? How can I counter it? And Ben Johnson can do that a lot of times. The third quarter, they usually bounce back in the fourth quarter and get something going. So there's got to be adjustments that are made. And not to mention just the offense hums. There's just a rhythm where they can go down the field and score, and that's how they get momentum in the game. And a lot of that is Ben Johnson's scripted plays coming out of the kickoff in the first drive and the second drive. So it's very concerning. I think they'll eventually figure it out. but I think it would be hard to meet the ceiling that this offense has right now with Ben Johnson. I don't think they'll ever be able to replicate the ceiling of it.
Yeah, no, I agree to that. And obviously, Ben Johnson can be taking notes and obviously learning some things with Ben Johnson on how this offense is ran for, pre-planning for his departure. But I also think it's going to be an intriguing spot for an offensive coordinator if they do go out and hire a guy from outside. Obviously, the way things work, they might hire a guy from inside the organization, but I still do think that the Lions are going to be a destination for someone's going to be looking out for taking over for Ben Johnson's position for sure.
Hi. Hey, I'm nervous, boys.
You're hitting the panic button. You're hitting the red panic button.
No. But it's tough because when I was listening to Boone, I'm like, that's fair. Like what you guys are saying about Dan Campbell. There's a reason Sean Payton, me and Adam talked about this when he first said it. Sean Payton called him the offensive version of Mike Vrabel. And having an offensive coach in today's NFL, you guys know how I feel about that. I lean offensive coach. So I have confidence that Dan is bright enough offensively to figure it out and fill that void with the correct hire. Okay. But let's not act like this is where I disagree with you, Boone, because you're like, well, Dan helped Ben get. How about this? I'm not saying he didn't help at all.
There's a reason I said 7. I'm not saying it's like there is a concern. You still have to replace him.
That's fair. That's fair. Let me just ask you this. Let me just add, is there a chance also that they struck gold with Ben Johnson?
Yeah, I mean, there always is, but there's teams around the league who lose the OCs and they bounce back as well.
What?
There is there's a chance for anything to happen.
I'm glad you brought that up.
There's a chance they lose Ben Johnson and they're the 30th worst offense in the league.
I'm glad.
There's a chance.
That's why I love you, because you brought it up. Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, is Dan Campbell those coaches?
Guys? No, he's not. That's why
that's the example. Mike McDaniel. And I'm not saying he can't be, but guys, that's where Dan's going to have to get to where he's that bright of an offensive line. And maybe he is offensive mind. Maybe he is. But we kind of saw the offense when he was calling plays too. I just think Ben helped they helped each other. Ben elevated the offense. I'm curious what it looks like after. I am. And I think Dan, with his history of hiring the right coaches, maybe he nails the next hire. But I'm with you though, Boone. I mean, and Lucas, I think it's about and Mike, you said, what was yours again?
I didn't even say it. Probably about the same as Booner, like 7 or 6.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I would say about 8.
It's just a 7 because it's like it is at the end of the day, dude, it's Ben Johnson. He's one of the best in the league. You have to replace the best OC in the NFL. Any sport, anything, when you have to replace the best of the best, that's tough to do. And it's gonna whoever takes over next, that's a tough job to have, because if you struggle a little bit, you're gonna get a lot of backlash instantly. And that's why earlier this year when I thought Ben was leaving, I told a lot of people as well, hey, if Tanner does take over, whoever does take over, it's gonna be a tough 5 or 6 first weeks, because that's gonna be the initial hey, you're trying to get used to each other. You do have all off season. It's going to be a struggle, though, so don't judge them off their first 5 or 6 weeks. Let them kind of get into things. So I'm interested to see when that time does come. We have at least 12 months, though. But when that time does come, I think there's a good predecessor that you've talked about for a couple of years now, Jeff, that I think it's pretty much a lock that he takes over.
Yeah, I think Philly just scarred me. Watching what happened was we all looked at, if you would have asked where does Nick Sirianni rank in NFL head coaches entering week 1 of this season, a lot of people would have said top 5. But after watching what happened there, after losing both their coordinators, now I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, because obviously I think Dan Campbell has a better feel on how the NFL works than Sirianni, since he's a former player. But just watching that situation, and especially how it's built for Jalen Hurts to succeed, and then you don't have a coordinator that knows how, okay, now we're dealing with this injury, so we can go to this player and plug him in here. Same thing with the defense. It's just, there definitely has to be some concern.
Yeah, there just has to be. And that's why, I'm not saying that, and I don't want it to get misconstrued to where I'm Dan doesn't know anything about it. No, I stuck up for Dan. I think he knows more than what he's let on to. The big thing, that the big picture that's painted is he's like a meathead, but he's not. He's much smarter than he's much smarter.
That's why he just made all those moves in the position with coaches. He just made a lot of moves for a reason.
And
he knows
Steve Wild, and Steve Wild's put this in the chat. I want to make sure I find it. And he made a good point here, talking about just Dan's influence on the offense. I do think that it's almost like Dan paints he tells Ben how he wants the pitcher to look like, and Ben paints it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not that Dan doesn't deserve credit or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. I just think when you have a guy like Ben, the play calling won't be the same, but hey, Dan Campbell, they'll figure it out.
I mean, Dan did come out in a press conference earlier this year, and it was like someone asked him about his preparation, and he goes literally, or one of the coordinators said, like, I think Ben Johnson or Dan said, like, literally Monday morning we walk in and Dan Campbell has exactly what he wants on offense this week and puts it down, and then we go from there. Like, Dan has a massive, massive footprint on this offense. It's not like it's all Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson draws the plays up and he cooks. Like, he cooks. He's one of the best for a reason. But Dan Campbell, like, when Ben Johnson started to take over, guess who was making play calls through that whole time as well? Dan Campbell, like, when things started to turn. So, like, it's not like a full, like, oh no, but like it is like a little bit. And I think right now, I'm bet you anything, Jeff, if we go in the building next year, hopefully we get a couple times we can go in there and ask some questions and talk. I bet you see Tanner, Ben, and Dan Campbell, all three of them together at some point a lot next year. And I bet 100%. You they're like training camp. I bet you those three guys are hip to hip to hip. And I can almost guarantee you guys that, especially since Tanner had all those interviews.
Dante151, man, we appreciate you donating $10. He says, I will give the Lions credit for looking on ways to improve the coaching staff so that way the players can improve on both defensive and offensive sides of the ball, unlike some other teams. Yeah, and that's a hard thing. That's an underrated trait for a head coach, like getting your staff right. Like that's it's been the downfall of coaches, especially here in Detroit, but that happens to coaches all around the NFL. Not just getting your coaching staff right, but also hitting on players. One like Ife Melifonwu, who we just posted this. And you can go check this out on our X right there. It's on the top of the screen if you're viewing. If you're listening, it's at Official CT Pod. We posted this graphic. And the question is star potential. That's the headliner. Will Ife Melifonwu take another big leap next season? And I know when people hear breakout, they're like, well, he kind of broke out. He played a handful of games, but I'm talking like full season. Mm-hmm. Will this man keep up what he did this season, next season? And you guys know how I feel about Brian Branch. And Lucas, you feel the same way. I think we'd all agree. All pro next year. He's going to be one of those guys. Where do you put Iffy, though? Because like it's hard to put a ceiling on that guy because he showed it in such a it's Houston-esque, where it's like a sample size of just like elite play. Where does he go from here?
I think he's going to take a step, no doubt. I think he could be on like a Pro Bowl alternate type of level. But I think what's very vital for Ife, and I'm not saying if we don't get this, that he's not going to be a good player because you do have Kirby there. But I think it's very vital for Ife to have another safety that you can put in the box because Kirby Joseph is your lone free safety right now. And with Ife being a former corner, he has great coverage skills. So I don't really want to see Ife fighting for snaps in the box. I want him to be able to make plays. And when Ife makes plays, it's when he's able to be in the box and have another safety on the other side because Brian Branch, I could see them sticking him in the slot a little bit or sticking him in the box, but I think they really want to tap his potential as far as coverage. So being able to send Iffy off the edge, they need to address another safety in that room, in my opinion, to help him elevate even more. But I think he's bound to have a great season.
Yeah. Obviously, we've seen how much he stepped up when CJ was gone and like how versatile he really is and all the different ways that AG used him. I think one thing, like Lucas said, depending on if they add another safety, if they bring CJ back, just like how much really will he be used in that and how many different formations, where does he in on? But I do definitely think he'll take the next step just from what we've seen. He was successful blitzing. He was successful in coverage. He's just really an all-around versatile DB or safety rather, and he can really do it all.
Yeah, I'm too, Lucas. That like we talked about that the other day about bringing in that depth and safety, and I think there's a lot of people like the fan base and that are all have the same feeling to where. Can Iffy kind of be that CJ Gardner-Johnson who we thought CJ could be? Because we've seen CJ and Lucas, I know you've been a big CJ guy, but like I think that's kind of a little bit of a worry for everyone. Like, hey, can Iffy really take that step to be like what CJ has been in his career? Because you're at this point, you're like you don't have to pick between the two, but like that's basically what's happening right now. Is are they going to roll with CJ or are they going to roll with Iffy? And then are they going to bring in like what are they going to do? I'm just like I looked at some of Iffy's numbers. Dude, like he played in less than 400 snaps this year and did what he did. Like I think he had multiple interceptions. Obviously, he had like 5 sacks and bunch of pass deflections, quarterback hits, pressures, like 30 something tackles, and that's all in less than 400 snaps. And like to put that in perspective, Kirby Joseph had over 1,000 snaps this year. Like Kirby played like over 50 snaps in like 15 plus games. And if he only did that in like 5 games this year, had 40 plus snaps. So like you haven't seen all of that you needed to from Iffy yet. And I think that's what you see next year. And if he does what he did in those 5 games or 6 games next year for the whole season, he will be a Pro Bowl level. And that's where I think a lot of people are starting to kind of have, like, they're having trouble in their head getting across that point to where, hey, if he was extremely elite for 5 or 6 games, like he was on a level to where, like, if he does that for a whole year, he's a Pro Bowler. So that's where I'm out. Like, I think a lot of people have trouble thinking about that because of CJ Gardner-Johnson in that situation. If you take that all out of the scenario and you just go, what is Iffy going to be? He's going to be a dog next year. And I'm with Lucas. Like, if you get rid of CJ and you have Iffy, make sure you go get some depth. Get Mikey Sanders, go get someone. Like, go get someone to be able to have some depth to where you don't have to sit there and like worry about an injury or something happening.
Mm-hmm. Well, real quick, steel-tipped cleats, who just
shout out
recently, donated $20. Man, Dante Steel.
We gotta get some conies now, boys.
He says, "Go out and get some conies, boys. The show is great, man. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Seriously, thank you.
Let's go get some conies Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday night. We'll do that Saturday night.
I think the beanie making me look kind of homeless. I think the beanie making me look homeless kind of worked, boys. I think
you should wear the beanie with that painter's jacket.
For once, Jeff, I'm giving you credit. I don't think the beanies are a homeless look. I think the beanies are a good look.
Okay.
Don't shoot yourself down. We would check you.
Where's the painter's jacket?
We checked you on the jacket. We checked.
No. Wait. Wear the jacket with the thing. Let's see them both together.
No. I'm walking into a blender. If I do that. No, we do. We appreciate the even just the viewers, but the donation, everything. You guys are awesome. I want to also bring up, because you guys talked just about, I know people have been talking in the chat about the all pro stuff. Like Iffy and Brian are different players, but if we're talking which safety has the potential to be up like an all pro, I would lean Branch. Like, if we're talking Iffy, I'm more.
I thought you were about to say Iffy. I was like, oh.
No, I'm more with you, Lucas, where it's like Pro Bowl alternate. Like and that's not even a slight. Like you're talking about.
I think that's like a compliment. Like where he was. Like that's a compliment.
So I think they're great at safety. That's why, hence, when we talked about CJ, like Brad is, and I brought this up when we did the mock draft, and I thought more about it. Like Brad is, man, he hits on safeties when he drafts them. Like it took a little bit for Iffy, but Iffy, Kirby, Brian Branch, he's 3 for 3. Like he hasn't missed on a safety yet. So I mean, if you're asking how he should address it, I would say through free agency, bring in a veteran, but maybe he goes and drafts another safety and he turns out to be another Brian Branch or Kirby Jones. Who knows?
So Jeff, if you're going to do that, if you're going to go get a vet for what, $6-7 million, like at that point, why not just keep CJ Gardner-Johnson that for $6 million? Like that's where I'm at with it.
It wouldn't be 6 or 7 million. That'd be like a
little less.
Yeah, like someone that you're just picking up.
CJ got $6 million this year. He's not getting more than $6 million this next year because he barely played and he's coming off an injury. Like
kind of with Booner on this.
Like if you're gonna go, if like, and then this isn't me in the mind of Brad. It's just, hey, if you like Brad, if you're gonna go out and get someone new, like a new vet for around that price, because it's gonna have to be about $4 to $6 million. Just keep CJ Gardner-Johnson, someone who's been there, who's a locker room guy, and just keep him. And let him. I know he's a guy who thinks he's going to start, but hey, let him know. Hey, you might not get the snaps you did last year. I don't know. Like you're going to have to earn them, and he's a guy who will earn them. But I just don't see the point of like being like, let's just go to a different vet.
Well, here's the difference, right? Well, here let me explain this, and you guys can agree or
could end up getting screwed there.
No, well, let me. And I get what you're saying, but when you re-sign a guy like CJ, he wants to play. He wants to play a lot of snaps. If you go get somebody else cheaper, that's not as good as CJ, whatever, just a vet, someone just to come in as like a body in case you need them, because you're going to have Kirby, Iffy, Brian Branch, whatever it is.
That's right. You're leading it to be like, hey, Will Hurst, you could stay.
No, but all I'm saying is like if you re-sign CJ, he's going to cut into the other guys' playing time. Maybe not Brian, but it would be Iffy. Like I want Iffy to get most of the snaps. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it makes complete sense. And the whole situation that you just said is the same exact reason I just asked Russ, like, are the Lions going to draft a safety? I think that solves everything. Because to your point, Jeff, If you draft a safety in round 3 or 4, which Brad has already drafted 2 great safeties in round 3, if you do that, now they can have the same type of development. I know if he was drafted as a corner, but he converted to a safety. If you do that now you can have him develop and he can be that extra body, but he's still a talented player that's on a cheap contract that'd be cheaper than CJ. So I think that's the compromise that Brad's going to go to. I think they're going to take a safety in the draft because why spend money at safety when you're good there when you can go spend money on corners, which you absolutely need?
Yeah. No, I agree. If you're going to sign a safety, I'm with Booner. You definitely go out and bring CJ back. And for the most part, I wanted him back, but now I'm leaning more and more with Lukas here that I think it makes more sense to give Iffy the start and then kind of get pushing a young guy behind him just to slowly get some reps in. But I mean, if CJ did return, I still understand it because you can use these guys many different ways, and AG has shown that. But I'm kind of with Jeff. I want Iffy out there getting those snaps now, I think.
What did Russ say? Russ said Mikey Sanders drill. I said that the other day about I literally brought up that point to where, hey, if CJ does leave, just go draft another safety. Now that opens up the door with the whole CJ thing that Jeff, you brought up just the other day. That opens up the door for the Detroit Lions to actually we can start putting a safety on our books and like say, hey, this is a legit thing in the draft now, especially with Tracy getting cut. So I think it's a legit thing. He did name one more safety. I have a bunch of names here. I just don't know which one's the safety. I have like a list of 15 names.
Kalen Bullock.
Is that it? Is that the other one that he mentioned?
The thing is I think the Lions, if they draft a safety, obviously if Brad takes a strong safety, I'm gonna be like, okay, Brad took him. It makes the most sense to take a free safety instead of a strong safety because if he's gonna have to start at the strong safety position, and if anything happens to you, that's when you slide into Brian Branch because he can play that very well. There's more questions around Kirby, and if they address cornerback help, I think he's going to look a lot better as far as in coverage. But I think Kirby's the guy that you got to get depth for. I don't think necessarily you need depth for Iffy because I think you have that in Branch. Kirby's the guy that I think you kind of develop because, again, when his contract up, is he really a guy that you're going to spend a lot of money for? Whatever Brad does, he does. But I don't think he's one of those guys that's a must sign right now. So if you can get Kirby's replacement, it keeps that safety room deep. They're already good in the box with Branch and Iffy, but now get a guy behind Kirby that can help in coverage.
Yeah, because Kirby we know what Kirby is. Like he's a guy that he's a playmaker, but
he's not sticking his nose in the run game and making tackles behind the line of scrimmage, getting sacks. He's not that guy.
He you know what who he kind of reminds me of, to be ironically, like a little different, but like a CJ, where like CJ he's a playmaker. He can make things happen, but also sometimes CJ like in coverage isn't the greatest. Kirby's worse, but like you can't act like
CJ in the run can be.
Okay, I'll give you that.
I think that and it's no disrespect. Like Kirby's good at tackling after the ball is caught, but if he's one-on-one with the running back, it's not good for Kirby some of the time. And I think he's just one of those guys where great playmaker, but there are some weaknesses where his playmaking can, when he makes plays, it overcomes that. But there's just some games where, and I'm a Kirby guy. I have a Kirby Joseph jersey, but there's plays where he can be a liability. I'm not going inside, Boo. Hey, it's on the streams. Well, and you got to pick it.
I think we can all agree who's not a liability, and that's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Guy's never a liability. He's a dog. He's an absolute dog. And PFF put this out, ranked the 2021 wide receiver class. And Mike actually sent this to me because I saw it and I'm like, this is a great topic. So thank you for that, Mike. But Amon-Ra quote tweeted it and put 1. And then I think he deleted it. And then I'm not sure. I think he deleted it, but we know how he feels. Of course he should feel that way, right? Like, but look at this class. You got Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle, and Nico Collins. I do think if I'm thinking correctly, Nico Collins was drafted ahead of St. Brown. So that would put St. Brown drafted last out of all these receivers.
Yeah.
So he was taken last out of all these guys, and you could make the argument he's number 1 if you want to go with Jamar off last year because he was injured. I get that. If I'm just, and we're gonna rank this, guys. We're gonna go individually. You're gonna give your rankings and how you feel like these guys should match up. For me, and I'll rip the Band-Aid off. I think Jamar Chase is 1. That's just how I feel. I think Jamar Chase is 1 when healthy. 2 though is St. Brown. I think 2 is St. Brown. That's how I feel. Number 3, I'm going to go with Jalen Waddle, and then I'll go Nico Collins and then Devonta Smith.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have Smith last?
Yeah.
I disagree. I think, Booner, I want to hear from you real quick. Are you putting Jamar Chase over St. Brown? Just so I don't have to, because if you disagree, I think it makes for a good conversation because there's statistics.
No, yeah. So I could just read my list off here because I had it written down before. I had Jamar Chase #1 as well.
Okay.
I had Amon-Ra St. Brown #2. I had Jalen Waddle #3. I had Nico Collins at #4, and I also had Devontae Smith at 5.
Wow.
And that is like the legit list. Like I wrote that down before the show.
Yeah, Nico Collins is better.
Nico put numbers up this year, and I get there's AJ Brown, but Nico Collins, I think this year kind of took that step to where you can. I think Devontae is a number not. He could be a 1 on a team, but I think he's like a really really good 2, man. Like a really good 2.
And that's fair, but I just think I'm going obviously Chase #1, St. Brown 2. I'm gonna go Waddle. I'm debating. I think Collins is 5. I think Collins is 5 because what was he before CJ Stroud? And I'm not saying that he deserves 0 credit. No, like he's a very good player.
I mean, you can't really use that argument.
No.
What was Jamar Chase this year? What was Jamar Chase this year with a half of Joe Burrow? Like,
I mean, if we're being real here, like he had a great season. He also had Tank Dell get hurt to boost his number at the end. Like a lot of these guys, all of them have another wide receiver that's very good, and Tank Dell took a couple games to get going. I don't think Nico Collins is bad, but Devontae Smith, year 1 was a great receiver. Year 2 was a great receiver. Year 3, and the thing is with Jalen Waddles, he's hurt a lot of the time. Great player when he's healthy. This year, when you turned into a Dolphins game, it looked like Jalen Waddle was on the sideline every other drive, and that's not a knock. He was probably just dealing with injuries. I still think he's a great player, but I think Devontae Smith is 3, Jalen Waddle 4, and Nico Collins 5. Devontae Smith does not have the frame of a lot of these guys, but his hands, he has some of the best hands in the league. His route running is insane, and what he can do after the catch is nuts too. And he's putting up production where there's AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert on a run-heavy team, especially with Jalen Hurts' amount of rushing touchdowns he gets in the red zone. Devontae Smith is made for the red zone. So I think his production isn't the same, but if he was just to have an opportunity by himself, I think he would put up crazy numbers.
Yeah.
I disagree with that. I just don't think he would be like an insane #1 by himself.
I don't think an insane #1, but he could be a #1. Like I don't think Nico Collins is insane #1. I don't think Jalen Waddle would be either.
What do you think, Mike?
I had Jamar Chase at 1. I didn't even hear Lucas. I don't know if you numbered him off. Jamar Chase at 1, St. Brown at 2, Devontae Smith at 3, Jalen Waddle at 4, and then I had Nico at 5. I heard Lucas talking about Nico. I think kind of the same way. I think Nico will continue to climb this list, but I'm just not giving him in front of those guys yet. Jalen Waddle, my one problem with him, like Lucas said, is injuries. Devontae Smith, they have a lot of weapons on the team. They have a lot of guys that spread the ball around, and he's still been putting out the production. St. Brown, what do you even need to say about the guy? Him and Goff, his chemistry has just been unreal. And then Jamar Chase, #1. I think if Joe Burrow stays healthy, obviously that offense has been banged up so many times. He's still the best wide receiver on this list.
I think we had the same one. I think Gentry,
I think me and Jeff had the exact same one, and you two had the exact same one.
Hold up. Yeah, let me just. I'm just going to clarify this like Waddle's not healthy thing because and it's cute, right? I think it's adorable.
Hold
on. Let's go. No, listen. I'm glad you brought that up. Jalen Waddle, last 3 years, 14 games played this year. I'll give you it. 17 last year, 16 the year prior. Let's go over to your boy Jamar Chase. 16 games this year, 12 games before, and then he played 17. Jalen Waddle has missed less games than Jamar Chase. So explain.
Absolutely, but did you hear what I said though? Did you hear what I said? I said if you tuned into any Dolphins game, you saw Jalen Waddle going to the blue medical tent at least twice a game.
That's
still plays and puts numbers up.
Well,
not because he had 13 plus 100 yards as a 2.
What are we talking about here? He's playing with the Miami Dolphins offense where they just spread the ball around. He's got Tyreek Hill over him. He's in a great player, but he's in a position just to absolutely make plays. And the thing is, they pass the ball way more than the Philadelphia Eagles, so you can't control the #2 there. Not to mention Dallas Goedert, who's the Miami Dolphins.
Can I just read something real quick? I'm going to end this whole.
But just Waddle might be playing more games. But if you want to compare Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle, go ahead. I'm taking Jamar Chase. And Waddle is playing in those games, and I'm giving him credit that he's playing in them, but he's hurt a lot of those times playing.
Yeah. I think it was mostly just this year. And like Lucas said, he did have multiple times where he was in the injury tent or he would play half the game or whatnot. And I'm not really slighting them. I think 4 and 5 or 3, 4, and 5 could really be all interchangeable in a sense. These are all really good wide receivers. And I think #5 being Nico Collins is going to be the one that has the most potential to rise on this list.
I mean, fellas,
CJ Stroud.
Fellas, Jeff, can I just get a couple minutes here to rebuttal? Because just looking at the stats, game played, like all these points, it's like Devontae Smith probably played in the most games out of these. Let's just talk about the Jalen Waddle, Nico, and Devontae thing. I think Jamar Chase, St. Brown. I think there's an argument you could even say St. Brown after this year. You could that's like who do you want? Jamar Chase or St. Brown. It's like that AJ Brown conversation that we had a couple weeks ago. So I'm not even going to argue that. If you tell me St. Brown, you guys know I'm a friend with St. Brown. So I'll go St. Brown with you if you do that. But these three guys, like we're acting like Jalen Waddle is a scrub because just let me. Are you going to let me talk? Or are you going to
don't say that I said he was a scrub because I didn't say that. I never said he was.
Let me finish. I didn't say. I'm saying you're acting like it. I didn't say you said he was. I didn't say you said he was. I said you're acting like it. Jalen Waddle. Yes, I get the injuries. He played. If you take those three guys, he's played in the least amount of games. The guy who's played in the most amount of games is Devontae Smith out of those three guys, which is awesome. But guess what? He has the worst stats out of those three guys, and he's played in the most games. These guys put numbers up consistently. And now I'm going to read a couple things to you here, a couple tweets to you real quick as well, because there's someone who tweeted this situation out today and shut it all down from people like you, Lucas. Someone said, Waddle is the future. He is better than I was at this point in his career. And for people in this fan base to want to trade him is ludicrous. Him and Tua was special before me. It will be special after I leave. That is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and his teammate Tyreek Hill, who vouches for Jalen Waddle and said he was better before I got there and after I'm going to leave there. Like Jalen Waddle is a very underrated wide receiver. You can go into Devontae Smith has the hands. He has to after the. Guess what? He's not putting the same numbers up as a Nico Collins. I don't care what's around you. We can go into every single player in the NFL and be like, well, he's got this around him. He doesn't have this. He has this. Yeah. What did he do on the field and what did he do? Guess what? Nico Collins went to the playoffs with the Texans and put almost 1,300 yards up and 8 touchdowns. He produced. He is better than Devontae Smith. If I had to pick right now, give me Nico Collins. All right,
that's fair. But to just act like Devontae Smith playing all the games, that doesn't matter because he's putting up lesser stats. Devontae Smith, not to mention, if you look at where they're playing right now, like Devontae Smith is not in a situation to be 1,000-yard wide receiver.
Here we go with the situation again, man.
Well, he does have AJ Brown literally publicly crying about getting the ball.
About the context. If you're just going to say that, like that matters. Just like we talked about with quarterbacks yesterday. If you're going to compare the players for one-on-one, take the team around it. That's what I'm doing. If I'm comparing them one-on-one, Jalen Waddle is quicker. Jalen Waddle does not have better hands. He does not have better route running. And at the end of the day, he's not more durable than him. So if I'm taking one guy, I'm taking Devontae Smith. More yards per game because think about this. They're playing in the Miami
Dolphins. He has Tyreek Hill, who is the best wide receiver in the NFL this year.
Which think about having what Tyreek Hill down the field does when you're already a fast wide receiver.
I get that. At the end of the day, Amon-Ra St. Brown's the best in the NFL.
So can we that's fine if you want to. I just want to get real quick with Nico Collins because that's where I want to make sure. And I just want to get where I'm coming from with Nico. Like the reason why I put him higher than Devonta Smith is like as a true number one. He went out there and he got almost 1,300 yards. He had 2 games with 200 yards. 2 games. Like some guys don't sniff 200 in their career. And he had a season where he had 2 games with like 190 something. Not exactly, but close. And then he had another game with over 150 and he had 2 other games with over 100. And I get you could say, well, he has CJ. And I don't think I get that. But like, again, like you might as well just start nitpicking then. Like Jamar Chase, then discount him because he has Joe Burrow. Like, you know what I mean? Like I can't use that across the board, but I get what you're saying. Well, that's why I have Nico ahead. And now Devontae might be better as a 1 somewhere, might put up more numbers. But like at this point in time, like
after this last year, I think you have to go Nico.
As like a true. He's an X. He's a number 1 wideout. I would go with Nico Collins. That's where I'm at. I think we're all agree. We like these wideouts. Like I'm not saying no one's bad. We're not saying no one's bad. I just Tyreek's slight edge, like Mike said. It's close. It's close.
Like Tyreek's tweet about Jalen Waddle being the future is absolutely true. It's spot on, especially when Jalen Waddle came out as a 1,000-yard wide receiver. Like I'm not discrediting him, but I just think there's more things that Devontae Smith is more polished on than Jalen Waddle at this point. That's all I'm saying.
But we can all agree that St. Brown
is the best in the world.
On
planet Earth. He's the best on planet Earth.
If the aliens come, you send St. Brown.
St. Brown is the best of all time.
Yeah, he actually just cut off his blue hair too. He just got a full shave on the head too. R.I.P. the
shout out, man.
Rip.
But yeah, I think, man, Jamar's going to have a huge season next year. I think St. Brown, those two are the best. It's crazy because, again, he was the last wide receiver taken on all those guys. But we'll see. I mean, I think it's unfair. I'm curious, though, if you put Waddle and Devontae as number ones, what they do. Like,
I think
one of them was
spot on.
Didn't they? No, they didn't. They didn't play together. Did they? Yeah, they did. They played together. And Devontae won a Heisman.
Yes.
So, like, and we know what Devontae was in college. He was an animal. But I'm curious, what would Devontae look like on a team? On a team, he probably would. He probably would. They both would put up numbers. Crazy.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad we got that little fight out the way. That's kind of, what was it, like a 2-on-2 with Mortal Kombat
It wasn't even a Detroit debate either. We were just going at it about.
Yeah,
talking ball, boys talking ball, man.
I saw a comment too, like someone's like, I don't know who it was, but it's like, man, these debates seem forced. I promise you,
they are not.
These are not forced.
I've never.
If you would have told me,
I've never in my career ever to anybody ever been like, hey man, you take that side, I'm going to take this side.
I've heard of places doing that. When I heard that, I was shocked. Like, I was like, there's no way. Like, I've been on a lot of shows. I've argued a lot. Like, never been forced.
Yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous. I kind of like that. Although I think it was a good discussion. None of us though even brought up St. Brown because it's not, you don't even have to mention it. It's like unspoken.
Best in the world.
Hey, can I read this comment real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Eric, my boy, Jeff, obviously. Put Waddle or Devontae in Nico's situation with the hurt Tank Dell, and they produce those numbers easily.
I want to put his comment up. Dang.
I don't hate it.
Yeah,
the thing
I don't have
Nico
those
He
responsibilities
does have that
yet.
X frame, but to Jeff's point, but Amon-Ra doesn't.
Nico had a year, man.
Oh, here we go.
He did have a year. Like, I'm not taking it away.
Discredit it.
Yeah, like, that's fair, Eric, but I could also argue we could do that about other wideouts too. Like, okay, give Amon-Ra St. Brown, put him in that situation, because again, Amon-Ra, we can all agree, is surrounded by more weapons. Like, there's guys that got to get fed. So, like, you could also do that.
Put Tyreek Hill in Houston, and I'm sure that man breaks the record. Like, but he didn't.
Like, yeah, it's just I hate doing that. I get what Eric's saying, but like that's just it does nothing for us. It's hypothetical.
That's why when you rank these guys, you can't just go by like, we'll do this and this. Like, it has to be like, what did he do?
Yeah, like put St. Brown with Mahomes. What would he be?
That's where I push back if you say that, because if you're going to base it off numbers, those numbers are from a system. Those numbers aren't just from like, oh, good player, good player. But that's true. I had to talk about.
But if like you're ranking all-time players, you're not going to be like, well, if this player was on this team for his whole career, he would have put those numbers up and won this many championships. So he's there. Like, no, like.
No, but I think when players' numbers are similar, then that's when you really got to take a look at the context. If there's a huge gap in statistics, yeah, you got it. But if
there's a huge gap in this, it's a 300-yard difference. That's like 3 games, brother.
300-yard difference.
He had 1,300 yards.
Over the course of where they're at right now, if you just look at
talking about last season, it was basically a 300-yard difference that they had. That's a pretty as a receiver.
If you're
getting 80 yards per game, that's a lot. That's 3 games.
Okay, we're going to act like Philadelphia was not struggling last season. We're going to act like their offense did not just completely fall off.
But like you're saying, like if it's you're saying if they have close stats, like if their stats are similar, then you have to look at situations. Their stats weren't similar. Nico had a way better year.
I'm talking about Jalen Waddle here.
We've been talking about Nico this whole time, brother.
Then I'm going to say Nico. My argument for Nico is I just want to see it one more year. That's all I'm saying.
And I get what you're saying, Lucas, about like putting players in other offenses. I just don't like to do it because you can do it all day. I mean, we could. What if Puka didn't have Stafford? Well, he did, and he balled. So like, I hate doing.
I'm not saying what if. I'm saying I'm not saying what if. I'm saying look at what their offense is doing, how they're built, and how they're being used, and how does that actually tap into the numbers?
True. Rather
than like you don't ever expect Devontae Smith to have more yards than Nico Collins because Nico Collins is built like an X. They run different routes. Their whole game is completely different. Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith. That's why I compare those two.
Then let's make different lists.
Then Amon-Ra and Nico automatically you got to put them over because in X. No, you don't do that. You just take it into account when you're ranking them.
Yeah.
I
mean, okay. I don't hate that.
It's a good conversation though.
Yeah, no, it is. I want to. Speaking of situations, DJ Moore was in a terrible situation, and he still balled out. And here's the Justin Fields graphic that 33rd team put up. Of course, they had the interview with the St. Brown brothers. Shout out to those guys, man. The podcast is crushing, and it's great. We all tune in every week. They put this out. Who should trade for Justin Fields? Atlanta Falcons, Las Vegas Raiders, New England Patriots, Pittsburgh Steelers, Seattle Seahawks, or other. I don't even know what you guys are going to go, which way you're going to go. If you are a GM of any of these teams, or maybe another team that you want to throw out there, are you interested in Justin Fields? And do you believe that he can significantly raise the ceiling of your football team, or just raise it in general?
I really love the Raiders one. I do. I think if the Raiders were to make the move, I think it would be one that benefits him in many ways if they adjust the offensive line a little bit. Now, I understand it's not going to be the best division to go into with Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes. I don't think that's the best situation, but for him to develop as a player, you have Jacoby Myers, a great checkdown guy. You have Devontae Adams, and you have Josh Jacobs. I think he has everything he needs, and if they keep adding to that defense, especially with Antonio Pierce hanging around, I think the Raiders are on the incline, and I think that would help Justin Fields get into his bag and understand you can attack the game at all three levels instead of just finding DJ Moore.
So I saw today the odds for the next Raiders quarterback. I don't know if you guys saw this.
Isn't it JJ?
The league or the leader, or I guess maybe I didn't see. I saw Russell Wilson. The favorite for him to go is the Las Vegas Raiders. Which, I mean, I'm not like a huge Russell fan, but I guess it makes sense, like a vet in there. I think the Justin Fields thing. I think he ends up just either in Pittsburgh and Atlanta, like we talked about earlier today. I don't see. I think they're both good fits for him. I think Atlanta's like the best. I think he grew up in Atlanta. I'm pretty sure from what I heard on the show.
He's from Georgia. Yep.
Yeah, so like he grew up around there, and like those guys, the weapon. I mean, I said it on the show like 2 days ago. It's just the weapons there. He has the guys. I think that's like the clear favorite, and I think they want him there. And at the end of the day, there's so many quarterbacks right now that can move around to where it's going to be hard to see who goes where and what happens. Like Kirk Cousins could go to Atlanta. Kirk Cousins could go to Vegas. Like there's just so many different things that could happen. But I think Atlanta and Pittsburgh kind of fits him the best to kind of go in there. And Pittsburgh would be tough, though. That's a tough spot to go to.
Yeah, 2 for 2 on me and Lucas. I said the Raiders too, but really any team but the Patriots would be good for him. I would like to see him play under Mike Tomlin. I know Mike Tomlin said some good things about him, but for all the reasons Lucas said, you got Michael Mayer, you got Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams. You maybe draft a running back. You maybe bring Josh Jacobs back. You got Antonio Pierce, who caught some steam and had that team rolling towards the end of the year. So I really like them. And they do still have to add some pieces on the defense, but they were stringing things together as far as that goes. So I really like those, the Raiders, but he would be electric in that Falcons offense. Yeah. Needless to say, you got Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, you got Drake London, you got Tyler Algier. So it's really, I don't know. It's kind of crazy what Justin Fields could do as far as his decision or his decision boils down to. Really.
So I get the fit with the Raiders. Like that makes a lot of sense. Do you think though, on the opposite side, like it's a good fit, it might be a good fit for Fields, but are the Raiders actually looking at that? Like we need a new quarterback, like a guy like Fields who really like, I know he's been in a bad spot in Chicago, but like he hasn't really proven that he can go out there and win yet. And like they're almost at a point to where they need like a Kirk Cousins or someone who can like, they know can get the ball to Devontae Smith and Jacoby Myers, and they can go win football games. You're at a different spot, in my opinion. Like the Raiders are at a different spot than the Atlanta Falcons. Like the Falcons are at a spot they could bring a young guy in, like a Justin Fields, and they can like, hey, this is our next guy. We can work with them the next 3 or 4 years. Raiders are at a spot like they have dudes that want to win there now. Josh Jacobs, Devontae Smith, like Devontae Adams. They have guys that like they need to win now, in my opinion. And I don't know, like is Justin Fields a guy that can come in there and just like be like, yep, we can go win a Super Bowl with them? I don't see it.
They're not in a win now mode year though.
Feels like they are though. They have vets that like want to win, or they're going to be out.
Obviously, they want to win, but this is their first year with Antonio Pierce. They have a ton to address. They have a ton of money to address on the defensive side, considering the quarterbacks in their division, and especially with Denver, they're probably going to get somebody in the draft. So when you have to spend that money, does it make more sense to spend more money for a veteran quarterback when it's probably still not going to be good enough to beat Patrick Mahomes? Or add to that defense and trade your first round pick, second round pick, whatever it's going to cost for Justin Fields. Have him go in there because that locker room is going to pound the table for Josh Jacobs to be re-signed. I think Antonio Pierce is going to make sure that happens.
I disagree wholeheartedly. Like they need to go win. They won 8 games last year. They brought Antonio Pierce back to go win something. Like they have a lot. They don't have. This isn't a rebuild situation for them. They have Max Crosby who just signed a big deal. Like they have Devontae Adams who's like it's either they win or he's gonna leave. Like he's not wasting his career anymore. Josh Jacobs isn't sticking around just to lose. Like these guys want to win. And I'm not saying I think that's a good fit for him. Like in a year or two, that's a good football team if Justin Fields turns out. He just hasn't won in his career though. And this year, they were 8-9 last year without a quarterback. Does Justin Fields go in there and take them to 12 wins in that division? Does that really happen? Can you look me in the eyes and be like, yeah, that happens?
Well,
I don't know if I can.
No, it doesn't.
But to Lucas's point, even though I have a different answer than the Raiders. I don't think who quarterback's going to get them 12 wins. You know what I mean?
I'm just saying, take a step from 8 to get to the playoffs and compete.
They're not going to do that.
They have I think they're at that point to where they
the
need
Chargers
to.
are going to be better, man.
They're not going to do that.
I think they need to. They know they have guys there, vets there that they're either going to win or they're going to lose.
Let me ask. Who are they
I'm just being honest, dude. You're saying Devontae Adams is fine with the rebuild. He would have asked out already.
Okay, but the NFL's not always linear, right? 8 wins. Now you got to win 12 games. I get that, but what quarterback's going to win 12 games?
I just don't think that
that's available. That's available.
I just don't think they want a quarterback. They want someone who's going to come win now. Maybe Justin Fields is that guy, but
that's fair. But
he hasn't shown it. So my question is do you feel like they do they feel like they know it?
Well, I think the only right answer is the Falcons. I think the Falcons make the most sense because he's from, obviously, it's not even just he's from, that's a little bonus. I like the situation in Atlanta a lot. You're walking into a pretty good offensive line. Can't complain about that anymore. You got a run game. You got Bijan Robinson. You got weapons. You love Cole Kmet. Well, now you got Kyle Pitts. You need a true number one. Well, now you got a 6'5" wideout in Drake London. Throw it up. He'll go get it. He'll figure it out. And then you look at their OC, Zach Robinson, who actually that Raheem Morris took from the Rams. He was their quarterback coach and their pass game coordinator. Now you got some of that West Coast system. I think that, again, in there in a dome, which don't sleep on that. He doesn't have to play in Chicago weather, which is crazy and windy. It's the Windy City for a reason. The weather factor gets taken out of it. Good coaching, good situation. He'll be embraced. He's familiar with some of the players already. I think he would thrive in Atlanta. I do.
I don't hate it. I think that's where Kirk goes. I think, to Booner, to your point, Atlanta is a situation I could say, okay, we can win some games now just because of the state of their division and the weapons that they have. Yeah, they're young, but Drake London, he has already shown that he has flashes of wide receiver 1 potential. He can get there. Kyle Pitts already has 1,000 yards. That defense took a huge step last year. It was one of the most underrated defenses in football. Now you're going to reinforce that with Raheem Morris. So if Kirk Cousins goes there, that's a team that's going to, win the division. And if the Buccaneers made it to the second round of the playoffs, I think there's a damn way that the Atlanta Falcons could, especially if they're a run-heavy team. I think that's the best situation for any quarterback to go to, but I think that's where Kirk lands, although Justin fits there perfectly, to your point.
That's exactly how I feel. I think Kirk, if I'm the Atlanta Falcons, you guys know how I feel about Fields. I would rather have Kirk Cousins. But if we're talking about which option would be the best, it's the Falcons. Now, realistically, I think the Steelers will get him. Because they don't have a better option. You know what I mean? You either draft a quarterback at 20 or you trade for Fields. I'm trading for Fields. You know what I mean? The Falcons have the advantage to go get a Kirk Cousins. So I'm with you, Lucas. I mean, of course, you get a veteran quarterback who will throw for 4,000 plus yards, and you get him a run game. I think Kirk is a perfect fit. Any quarterback's a perfect fit. It's a great situation. Mm-hmm. It's a great situation.
I do think Fields wants to be in Atlanta, but I do think he ends up with the Steelers.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Steelers. It'd be interesting to see that Kenny Pickett, Justin Fields camp going into the season. I wonder how would it be? Because imagine if Justin doesn't win. I
don't know if that's going to be a
and then
battle.
You just traded a first-round pick.
I think Kenny, man. I've been a Kenny guy all year.
I'm not a Kenny Pickett fan.
I was a Kenny guy all year. You guys know that. I always would say he's the best fourth quarter quarterback in the NFL. I just don't. It's a joke, but I just don't I think that's kind of his thing's done. I think even Steelers fans, I notice they're kind of out on him. All those quarterbacks there, they had 3 quarterbacks there. They're all gone. You know what's crazy too with this quarterback conversation, real quick too. I was thinking this while we're having the conversation, is the Patriots. No free agent's wants to go to New England, in my opinion. I don't think that's a spot to where any a Kirk Cousins feel no one wants to even touch New England. They have to draft someone. And where are they at in the draft? 4th? Three. So they're not going to get Caleb Williams. They're going to have to either get a Jaden Daniels or a JJ McCarthy. Or if Drake May somehow gets to them. But they're going to have to they have to go rookie, and their rookie's going to play right away. So like that's going to be an interesting spot for New England because they're definitely not getting anyone. They have
Chicago ships them there. Says fuck
Oh
you, you're going to New England.
What do you guys think about this one? I just saw this comment. Let's see. I know. Yeah, and you might know where I'm going with this. I want to make sure I get the correct comment here. It was from our guy Danny G. He said JJ McCarthy is the most NFL ready QB, and I'll die on that hill. He was in a pro style offense.
That has to be a troll.
No,
it's Ryan Armani's burner.
He says, not saying they aren't talented, but I think JJ will be able to learn an offensive scheme and read defense is the best. Okay.
I think he's going to be good. A lot of people seem high on him right now.
I will say this. I'll give you this. JJ, his processing, like all that stuff, his ability to decipher defenses. He can do that. He wasn't asked to do a lot of that. Just because of how Michigan's offense is set up, I don't think you've really got to see what JJ and you talk about situation, Lucas. Like if JJ went to like a Clemson or somewhere else, maybe you'd see more of that ability. And again, Danny G says, I'm not saying he's the most talented, but you said the most NFL ready quarterback. So I get what you're saying. But what does that mean though? Like most NFL ready, like, okay, Caleb Williams, here's training camp. You ready? Like he'll be ready.
When I think NFL ready, I think start week 1. He's the best quarterback to start week 1.
And I would argue he's not. I would argue that JJ, watch JJ throw the football. There'll be times where he throws it 110 miles per hour.
He has no touch.
The touch has to be fixed. He's still all these rookies aren't finished products. But like JJ, I think he just hasn't had enough reps to be able to do it. I don't think they asked that.
As someone who's watched Michigan watched him the last few years, there has been a lot of time. Like he has an arm, and you see throws now and some film. You go back and watch some of the throws he makes and the spots he puts the balls is just like this kid can be very, very special. But at the same time, if you go watch, because a lot of people just right now they're looking at his highlights. If you go watch some full games and watch some of these just passes over the middle of the field, like he overthrows a lot of them. Like he lets balls just get away from him, and it's just because like he has he does have a really good arm to where sometimes he doesn't control it well. And I think that comes back to he hasn't got a ton of reps in games, and he hasn't been able to go out there and just sling the ball for 30 times, which in the NFL, guess what? Pro style, like you're gonna have to throw the ball 30 times some games, 35 times, 40 times. Like that's gonna be a thing. So like talent wise, I think he might have the highest ceiling out of the quarterbacks. Potential. I mean, Caleb Williams obviously, but like my bad. But he might have. I know. No, relax. All right, Lucas, relax, bro. Like I get it. Like, bro, what I said, like, relax. But at the end of the day, I lost my train of thought now. Like Luke,
no, you're good. Even me, like I've loved JJ. I'm a Michigan fan, but to say he's, whatever he said about him being number 1, I just doubt it. There's Drake May and Caleb Williams. They're still great. Jaden Daniels still has some question marks around him, and I do think JJ is going to be a good NFL quarterback. But there is still some things that he has to work out as far as throwing the ball goes and getting more reps and being in an NFL offense, like you guys talked about, throwing the ball 30 times a game.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of things that JJ has to hurdle starting off, but I do think he can develop into that.
Dude, he could end up having one of those arms, like a special arm. Like he could have, like he has that. It's just like he needs a year to be able to kind of sit back and get those reps. Like he needs that. And maybe it's not even a full year. Maybe it's just a couple weeks and needs the off season to be able to be with the team and get those reps in. But throwing the ball 30 to 40 times compared to 10 to 15 times in a game is night and day difference. And making those passes consistently, that's that's different. Like that's reps, man. Like you need that. It's going to be tough for him to step in right away and throw the ball 30 plus times.
Yeah, facts.
I see this. Clayton Smith says JJ looked elite in the playoffs, won Michigan games in clutch moments. I think Blake says anyone but the Vikings, please God. Matt N says I like JJ to the Rams best. Yeah, I think I like that fit because he gets sit behind Stafford. That's
interesting one.
And he gets Sean McVay, which Sean McVay is like he'll answer any questions you have. But I will say about JJ, if you talk about walking in and being able to be a game manager, because I'm not, and that's not disrespect. I'm just saying while he's developing, he's smart. He's a smart football player. He can operate an offense. If you mean that, like NFL ready. Like, yeah, maybe I get that. I just think there are things that he needs to work on. And I'm curious. I would still have him for me. He's QB4 because people bring up, arm talent, and he certainly has arm talent. But like the same people who say JJ has this like crazy arm talent, which I'm not saying it's not true, will then say Caleb Williams is a bust. It's like, have you watched Caleb Williams and his arm talent, arm angles? Like, he's up there with a guy like Caleb Williams. But I just think it's ironic that people, say Caleb's a bust, but then JJ's like the GOAT and he's going to be the number one quarterback in this class. It's like, guys, okay.
Yeah.
It's relaxing.
I don't know if we read this off, but FanDuel actually has odds on his next team. Did we read those off before? Have we done that?
Where?
JJ?
For what?
FanDuel.
Sorry. What'd you say? I was
For
doing
his
something.
next team, JJ's next team. They got the Minnesota and the Falcons both at plus 500 as his top two teams to land at. And then right behind them, the Broncos and the Raiders.
So here's this graphic. This is on FanDuel as well.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
I didn't know if we had the actual odds. That's what
no, I do not.
So the odds are Minnesota 1.
Yeah, Minnesota and the Falcons are tied.
So the Falcons are on
That's so interesting to me, man. Like, it's interesting. Like, I don't get why they wouldn't just go Kirk or Fields. It's just interesting.
Yeah, and they got Bo Nix favored to be drafted by the Broncos. So.
Oh, I did see that. We did their mock draft yesterday, and we just didn't show the first 15 picks, and I think they had Bo Nix going 12.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, the Bo Nix thing, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I think he's accurate. He's an older quarterback. He's been in college for a couple of years. But I do think Bo Nix, what you're drafting is like what you're getting. Like, I don't know if there's a
dude. I don't think he's a first round pick, to be honest.
Yeah,
I don't think he will be.
Him being mocked at 12 is just crazy to me.
But you get what I'm saying, right, Mike? Like, I don't know if he'll be like the Bo Nix trajectory when you draft him. He's like, it's kind of. I think, to be honest with you, I can see like a Kenny Pickett situation where he's just.
I agree, dude. He went to the Senior Bowl and
count.
he dropped his stock. Like, did you see some of the throws at the Senior Bowl? I don't know if you guys saw it. Like,
yeah,
it was bad. Just
I don't
wasn't
know.
good.
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not big on. I think I like Penix is interesting. I know who had a mock to be. Who had that? Joe Klatt
had him to the Dolphins. I think.
Yes,
The Dolphins
had a mock to the Dolphins, which like
his odds are favored to the Seahawks, and then the Vikings right behind him. So Seahawks and Vikings for Penix.
These odds have all of these quarterbacks just going in the top 20, like every quarterback. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Michael Penix and Bo Nix. If I had to give you a guess right now, before free agency and before everything, the combine, I think Bo Nix doesn't get taken in the first round, and I think Penix is like a.
I don't think he does either. I think there's four guys in the first, 4 quarterbacks in the first.
I'm not sure. Penix, I like him. I see this too. Shift God says Penix to Minnesota. Like, I could see a team in the first. There's a lot of teams that need a quarterback, man. Like, we might see 5 quarterbacks go in the first round.
You think so?
Yeah.
I keep going back to that tweet that I saw yesterday, and that one kind of skewed my kind of thought on it, saying that the NFL right now in front offices are kind of feeling like there's just four like elite quarterbacks, and then there's just a massive drop off after that, and the drop off goes to Bo Nix and Michael Penix after JJ. So like that's where I'm at, to where it's like if you're in the first round and you're not getting a guy that you feel like can like be that dude for you, why not wait till the next round? I don't know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Shout out.
Steve.
$20. Let's go, Steve.
What, Steve?
Let's go.
Steve, you're a goat. You're a goat. We appreciate you. I don't even know what to say, man. $20? Jesus. Wow.
Shout out, man.
Yeah, Steve Lehman,
that.
man. He's been supporting us since the very beginning. So, Steve Lehman, we love you. We absolutely love you. Thank you for that. That is man just dropped the 20.
Didn't say a word.
Yeah, what a game, man. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Blank
20 spot.
Well, to answer, to kind of respond to what you were saying too, Booner, about the quarterbacks, like I could see 5 because you think about it, right? 3 quarterbacks, I think, go in the first 3 picks. That's my opinion. I think Bears take a quarter. I think it goes Caleb, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, or it goes Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. However you think about it, that's 3 quarterbacks. If you think JJ goes 12 or wherever, top 15, there's teams closer to 20 that need a quarterback, man. And who do you think besides Bo Nix or Michael Penix would be taken? I would think Penix. So, like,
I would go Penix over Bo Nix personally.
You think?
100%.
I think there's a little chance, man. One of these teams might be like, you know what? Everyone's off the board. Let's just take a dude. Let's just take a bite. Let's see Penix, what he's got. You know, because if you're back half of the draft, you really have nothing to lose. You just get a 5th-year option. I mean, I don't want to say you have nothing to lose, but it's less of like, it's kind of like the Steelers with Kenny Pickett. It's like they picked him at 20. It's like, all right, move on. Who cares?
Well, isn't Penix pretty old too? And he has torn his ACL like twice. Like, I just don't think a team, reaches in the first round on him. I mean, obviously, you get the extra year, but I don't know.
Yeah, he's got bad knees. I mean, he's got bad knees. He's older.
He wasn't playing against the best defenses in college football. He had the top wide receiver trio. I mean, Rome Odunze and even Jalen Polk. Jalen Polk is not talked about enough, is sliding in there at the back of the first round because, honestly, I've been comparing them, and I know, Jeff, we kind of talked about it in a mock draft. I talked about Rome Odunze, and I do think he's a top 10 pick, but I put the best wide receiver on his team. There is a situation where Jalen Polk is a first-round pick, a late first-round pick, second-round pick. He could potentially be the best wide receiver of that whole trio. And the fact that Michael Penix had that much to play for and took a shit in the bed like he did in the national championship, to go with the injuries, to go with the age, to go to the fact that where his head coach now is left as offensive coordinator in the NFL, like that matters. His situation was ideal, and he still couldn't pull it off. So I think that's going to address his stock somewhat.
I will say this about Penix, though. He did play in an NFL offense.
He did, but is that team – he played in a very air raid offense. Is that team going to want to have him throw the ball a lot of times? Because with a quarterback like Penix, a lot of times he has to find his rhythm. You can't just go in throwing that many times and go, okay, you threw 50 times in college. Now in the NFL, you're throwing 25, and we need you to be just as efficient. That's a hard thing to do sometimes, especially like I know if let's say he's a first-round pick. If he's one of the first kind of guys taken, somehow he slides up. You're going to a bad situation that doesn't have a lot around you. Now you have to do your game, adjust on your game on the fly. And that's where it worries with me with JJ McCarthy too. Like if he gets picked and those first 4 quarterbacks and they're all in the first round, he's not going to a good situation. And especially in the college football playoff, Michigan's offense was through the run game and it was through Roman Wilson a lot of time. Again, give JJ credit because it's not like he shit the bed. He did play good. But now he's going to have to be the guy a lot of the times. And I don't know, unless he goes to Minnesota, if he's able to do that year one. So the whole NFL ready thing, I thought was pretty wishy-washy. But Penix has a lot of red flags for sure.
Hey, I agree with Lucas. Like, that's why I'm like a Seattle or Minnesota is perfect for JJ. Because, like, it's like in basketball. Like, if you're drafting a guy that shot 8 shots per game in college, and then you're, like, drafting him to be your number 1 option, in the NBA to shoot 15, 16 shots right away, it's like, hey, like he might not be like he's never done that before. So I'm with Lucas a bit to where he does need to be in a right, like he needs to be somewhere to where he's ready to go. He's surrounded by the guys. He's surrounded by a good team. Either that or he has time to be able to develop for a year. Like that's just what it is.
I see Benji said Atlanta. I think we'd all agree Atlanta's the best situation for a quarterback, but I think we all agree though they're going to go Kirk. I think Kirk's should be their number 1 priority. Because you get a veteran. You don't have to wait on a rookie. You get a guy who's ready to play right away, put up numbers. He gets it. And for a new head coach, I think he'd prefer a veteran quarterback. I will say I'm sticking with the JJ to Denver. That's my prediction.
I have a question. Wait, Patriots pick at 3, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think there's any chance they trade out if Drake May doesn't fall to them, if they're like not comfortable with a guy like Jaden Daniels, and then they maybe trade back and get their quarterback and get some picks out of it? Because obviously we seen it yesterday in our mock draft that how Jaden Daniels fell rather, and I've been kind of seeing that more and more. And if Gerard Mayo isn't comfortable with picking his quarterback right then and there, like the Patriots could do something.
Oh, dude, I think the Patriots need to get Daniels, dude. I think it's like, go get your quarterback.
Blake, thank you for the $10, man. We appreciate you. He said Lucas said Latino, not Latinas. I brought it up, and I will die on that hill.
We threw the challenge flag, and ETN went back, and he got the footage. I said Latina. That's something I don't do. It's like messing up your ABCs. I don't do that.
Well, the emoji is live. You could put the Latino. Oh, crossed off Latina. It's a live emoji. So
that is awesome, dude.
You guys
that
can
is
spam.
So good.
Yeah, that is. It's amazing. Really, it's amazing. All right, we'll get to mailbag. and then we'll close out the show. We got about 15 minutes. I know we got to it kind of late yesterday. We missed a lot of questions, so we'll try to redeem ourselves and try to get as many people involved as we possibly can. We'll start it off with Eduardo's question. Mailbag, why can't we be lucky and be in a crap division like the Chiefs or 2000 Pat/Colts, F the Packers, F the Vikings, F the Bears? I mean, not saying you have one of the greatest divisions like in the league. I mean, it'll be a competitive division next year, but to me, it's two teams that are top heavy. I think it's the Packers, Lions. You're going to have a division with potentially 2 rookie quarterbacks next year, Eduardo. Like it, and if Caleb is like generational and he's like CJ Stroud and they win like 9 games year one, I think it's going to be it's going to take a little bit for those guys. So
it was like a walk in the park last year. It felt like too with Kirk Cousins going down, Justin Fields and them just being the Bears, and then Jordan Love being a first-year starter. It kind of took a little bit to get going.
Let's see, Adam. He says, Mailbag, why are you guys doing better live stream numbers in the former trash place? Well, hey, we just focus on the content. Yeah, we're replaceable. Who's not replaceable is Eric Allen, who just became a crunch member. Thank you, Eric Allen. We appreciate you, man. Thank you. Yeah, Adam, listen, a wise man once said,
suck
numbers,
baby.
Well, that, but also numbers never lie. Numbers never lie. That was what a wise man once said. So we live by that. Let's see here. Next question. Let me find one here. Now people are spamming the Latino emojis. That is a goated emoji. Steel-tipped cleats. Mailbag, wide receiver Xavier Leggetti. Is that his name?
Leggett, out of South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Leggetti. Is around in the late second. Do you move up to get him? He's a real beast. Well, obviously, Lucas, you're familiar. Tell me.
If Brad moved up to get Leggett, I would not be mad at all. This guy is a physical wide receiver. I'm trying to think of a comp because he's like a big wide receiver and he's a better like pure receiver than Deebo Samuel. But as far as just his playing style, again, where is he from? South Carolina. Where is Deebo Samuel out of? South Carolina. These guys are very similar with the ball in their hands after the catch, but I think Leggett's, again, Deebo was a second-round pick out of South Carolina.
That's true.
He's a better wide receiver, and I would say what Deebo does, he's just like he's a hybrid player, and what he does, he still excels at. But you get Leggett, that's a guy you talk about. Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Sam Laporta, and Leggett outside. Those are tough dudes to tackle, and that's yak yards after yak yards after yak yards.
Got me, man.
Yeah, I'm bought in.
Lucas convinces me about a lot of guys, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Lucas could sell me a penny. I mean,
he almost had me sold on Clayton Tune last year.
Hey, he got a 2-pointer going.
I was right there. Yeah, he got a 2-point conversion.
Hearing Lucas break down wide receivers and DBs is like by far one of my favorite things.
Yeah, just don't break down quarterbacks. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
That's a fair statement.
That's why I left that out.
After the CJ Stroud slander, I'm here.
What did I say a couple weeks ago, Lucas? This is a big off season for you. This is a big NFL draft. This is like a make or break off season for you. Like, are you gonna be the best?
It's like a contract year. It's a contract year.
This is a big year for you. I'm taking notes every day too for you.
Corey says, Mailbag, any chance or interest in going out and getting Gabe Davis on a dirt cheap 1-year prove-it deal similar to what we had Chark on?
Nah, I know Boone loves him, but
I'm not really like a big Gabe Davis guy. Like I'm like a secondary. I like the Bills, but like Gabe, he's a dude. Like he'll bring something to this team. I think a little bit more. He might be him or Josh Reynolds. Who are you taking? Like,
that's exactly where I was going to go.
Josh has been here already, but Gabe he's a dog.
If you're telling me they're going to bring Josh back and get Gabe, I'm like, well, no.
I mean, Gabe Davis need to prove it? Does he need a prove it deal at this point, anyways?
No, I think he'll get. I think he'll go somewhere. Paid. Yeah, he'll get paid somewhere. He's inconsistent. Houston. I would rather just have Reynolds back.
Yeah, Gabe Davis is more of like
Mike Evans in Houston would be great too, or Carolina.
Ooh. Yeah, because he's from Houston too. Mike Evans.
Like with Johnny
Mike
Manziel
Evans in Carolina would be nice, man.
We don't need to be throwing deep balls to Gabe Davis when we have JMO.
I hate it, but like that was the ESPN comp that they had. They had him going to Carolina.
I mean, it helped Bryce for sure, but he's going to go want to win something.
Mr. Detroit City says, Mailbag, one night out on the town to throw down. Who you got, Gronk or Kelsey? Well, dude, Gronk. Are you kidding me?
I don't know what this means.
Like, yeah, I'm confused on this.
I think he's talking about fight.
Yeah.
Like,
What
if
do
we're
you
like,
think? He needs?
Fighting, or like we
Yeah.
have to pick one to go out on the town with and then go have a night.
the out on the
I'd
town
still
really,
pick
like,
Gronk
Oh
either way.
no, he's talking about going and partying with.
I think I would go
Oh.
Gronk. I've recently
Gronk,
became
I would
actually a
still go
Kelsey
Gronk.
fan though the last couple weeks, so like I'm a little bit like maybe I'd go Kelsey, but I'm good Gronk dude for sure. That dude,
Yeah, that dude's a
after.
party animal.
I feel like
Mhm.
Kelsey pulls. I feel like Kelsey when he
sure.
goes out, he pulls. I'm gonna go with Kelsey. We'll
Actually,
rock
no,
the fade
Lucas.
together.
I'll end that for you. Did you see him at the parade? He couldn't walk. Like
Oh, yeah,
Gronk would. I don't think Gronk would
That's
ever get to
fine,
that
that's
point.
fine.
Though.
He's
I
having
think
a good
Gronk's always
time.
going to be alert.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
party with.
I'm going Kelsey.
All right, have fun with Taylor, man.
Oh, that's a good point. If she's coming along, ain't no way.
I'm
No
a Taylor
way.
fan, so I don't hate it.
Dat Boy Roy 2.0 mailbag. Who do you think is the Lions' first free agent to sign? I honestly, if I had to give you an answer, and
gonna be
let's
Say
not
not
go
on
like
the team.
let's not go like germ. Like but let's go a little more significant, some a little more
Graham.
substance. Like maybe like a Graham, Josh Reynolds, Siege, any of those guys, because like germ might be just like they just get that done. Like that might be the easy answer. But like if we're talking out of the bigger names, I'm gonna go Graham Glasgow.
Same.
Graham,
I like that.
Graham Glasgow.
Yeah, I could think there's an argument for Josh just because I don't think he's command a lot of money, but I think it's Graham too, so I'm not going to try to waste time making an argument for that.
Yeah, I think it's Graham for sure.
Yeah, that's fair. I just think they're gonna like let's just get this out the way. Like you
Yeah.
know, they want you. We want you back.
Because Graham's much more of a need as well compared to Josh. Not saying that Josh has no imprint on this team, but you need Graham at the possibility of Jonah leaving, and Jonah's contract's obviously going to take more time to negotiate. Could be Panay too. I know he's not a free agent, but the first guy to sign contract the Lions could be Panay.
I think an extension, yeah.
Who would win in a race out of all four of you?
Lucas. Jeff, don't even. It's Lucas, dude. Like, let's
Come on now.
that vein started popping. That's when you know Jeff starts like.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'd beat us like
lie.
distance, short.
He'd beat us.
He like runs every day, dude.
Yeah, 5K a day, and then my knee started fucking getting arthritis.
Okay, Neil.
Got in 4 miles yesterday though.
Like,
yeah, he wins, dude. I don't know the last time I ran 4 miles. Like 4.
How about 1 mile?
What? I mean, I could get a mile. I can do a mile.
I know. When's the
All
last
guys
time you
can
ran
get
a
a
mile,
mile.
though?
Like ran a mile, just like to where I'm like, hey, Booner, I'm gonna go run a mile. I don't know, dude. Months.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not like I don't like to run, dude. I'd rather go on like an elliptical or something. Running just sounds brutal. Or like a bike.
When I go to the gym, I'll run a mile. I'm done. I'm not running 4.
Dude, I'm not even doing that.
That's like my I run a mile and a half normally. If I'm like lifting, I'll run a mile and a half on the treadmill, get a sweat going, then I'll lift.
Get a sweat going. Okay. All right.
I start sweating bullets. I shouldn't say like,
Dude,
oh, I'm breaking sweat. Like I'm sweating.
If I went to the gym right now, my routine would just get on the bike and just go like as hard as I can for like 30 minutes. Go do like
That's
some
still good
core,
cardio, though.
do core, do some lifting, and then get back on the bike for another 30, and then I'm done. Like that's literally what I did all like when I would go to the gym in college. Like that was like my routine.
Bikes are so good. Running just like I get like super anxious and running. Like I can't be anxious. I'm like thinking about what I'm stressed out about, but I'm running. Like I can't like it's just like when you get anxious, you're like you're running. It's just you're already doing that.
Real quick,
run, dude. I don't
before we get to King King Horse's question, because it is a good question. I want to bring this up because it relates to what we talked about last question. Blake says, I saw Gronk in Vegas at a day pool party. He was doing backflips in the pool wasted.
Oh, dude, that's great.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that guy's different. All right, King Horse mailbag. Who's the biggest lightweight drinker between all 4 of you?
I'm gonna just say this real quick. At my best, I'm taking myself out of this because I at my best I can go at it.
Yeah, I don't know. I can hang in there.
I'd
Although
probably say Jeff.
when was it?
Probably
if I get
Jeff.
like 6 or 7 tequilas, I'll be pretty bad.
It's me. I just don't drink. I don't drink often, so when I do, Not saying you guys drink often, but like
the best part about getting dinner or something with Jeff is he'll have a couple drinks and like, yep, it's hit him. Like 2 drinks and like, oh, it's hit Jeff because he'll start talking about something.
He'll try putting up 8 and it'll look like this.
Yeah.
To be fair, Jeff
so
drinks
funny.
vodka and Red Bull, so
Hey, get the energy. That's what matters.
I'm not going to say that. Never mind. Shout out, Jeff.
Jesus.
I was going to give out another drink that you get, but I just feel like that's just like, let's just stay away from that.
I drink vodka. I drink different. I I don't drink beer. When I drink a lot of beer, it messes me up. It does.
That's what I love. I'll
love
do.
beer.
That's why
I don't mind
I'll,
beer. I
I'll
just
drink
can't
you
drink
guys.
a ton of
Maybe
it.
not Gentry, but I'll drink the boys out under on some beer, man. Give me a case.
Yeah, you can have the beer.
I gotta get something
have all
going
beer.
before the beer first. It just tastes so bad.
I just don't like.
I can
Yeah,
drink
I'm not a big beer guy.
I don't like the bullshit beer like Miller Lights, Bud Lights.
Oh, I
like,
love
that
good
shit's
Miller Lite,
gross as
man.
fuck.
You want the IPAs?
Yeah, no.
No.
I'm
Give
just
me a
drinking
Miller Lite.
Oberon or Two Hearted. Do one of those. If I'm
Miller-
at like a Red Wings game, you get the Molsons. How do you
Miller
know?
Lite is the beer I would. That if I were to get a beer, I'd get Miller Lite.
Dude, give me a case of Miller Lite and some wings or something. I'll sit there and watch football for a few hours. We'll be good.
Let's
I'm
see.
a big Corona guy.
Corona's good.
All right, let's see. Ubaldo says, Mailbag, what do you think about bringing back Mosley on a vet minimum?
We haven't really even talked about Mosley.
I don't know if they will, to be honest.
Back-to-back major knee injuries. It's tough.
Let me ask you guys as far as, and I know you might be just because it's the money with it. What do you think his importance is as far as depth and playoff experience, especially if they go up against the 49ers again in the playoffs, considering he just was playing there?
Yeah,
Like,
vet minimum.
where's else he going to get signed by?
Yeah, I don't hate it at all. I don't know if they will, but vet minimum, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I was saying, to be honest, a vet minimum, give it. It's not a bad
For
idea.
that price tag, it's hard to say no for sure.
Especially when he comes back, he'll be like a good depth piece.
And he's long in zone coverage. Like, there's just a lot. I don't think he's just going to fall off a cliff. He's not going to be what he was, but
you know what he is though. Like what he can bring.
Steve Wild says, Mailbag, would you go without sex for a year if it meant the Lions would sign Snead?
No,
Okay, now we're getting a little aggressive, Steve. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Yeah, sorry.
not
guys.
a chance. Not a chance.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
No.
Go sign Stephon Gilmore, please.
Yeah. Backyard North Mailbag. Who's your under the radar mid-round draft crush so far? One from each of you.
Mid-round?
Yeah, mid-round.
My number one
Mahogany.
No.
Give me Mahogany. I want to take Mahogany.
I said Chris Jenkins from the start. I've loved him obviously since Michigan, and I think he could be a good fit.
I'm gonna go Mikey Sandistro with the whole safety situation. I'm gonna go Mikey.
He meant like under the radar. Like maybe someone that you're not. Like I feel like Mike is kind of like maybe I don't know. Maybe that I don't know.
Oh yeah,
Malachi Corley. I take the Mohamed Kamara one back. Malachi Corley, the wide receiver out of Western Kentucky.
Ever since we started talking about Max Melton, the more I watch, the more I like him. So I'm gonna go with Max Melton. He's like a third round guy. So I'll lean him as of right now. If the Lions especially don't take a guy like my guy Kamari Lassiter, a corner, one of our corners we talk about in the first round, then yeah, go take Max Melton, man. I wouldn't hate that at all. All right, ETN, ask a question. Mailbag, rank these quarterbacks based on how you think they'll do in the league. Caleb, Drake, Daniels, Penix, Nix, JJ. Well, would we agree? I'm curious where you guys at with the first three. Caleb, Drake, May, and Jane Daniels. I actually have them in this order, but take JJ and put it in front of Penix. That's the order I have mine.
I have Caleb, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May. I think Jaden Daniels' ceiling, people do not talk about how the possibility of how high that could be. Because this man, I understand that he's skinny, but he's 6'3", just like Drake May. And Drake May, I think, could be very good. But if you talk about if all these guys hit their ceiling, obviously Caleb Williams is the unanimous number one. But there are things that Drake May cannot do that Jaden Daniels can, especially the NFL. Having a mobile quarterback, there's a difference. Drake May's a mobile quarterback inside the pocket that can extend plays, almost like a Brock Purdy. Now, he did lead North Carolina in rushing yards last year, 2 years ago. So I see that, but he's not going to lead any team in rushing yards. He's going to be asked to play inside the pocket, make plays outside of it when it happens. Jaden Daniels, they're going to make plays where he runs the ball. I would like to see his frame get a little bit bigger, but I think with his potential, man, I think he's the number two, then Drake May, then JJ, then I'll go Michael Penix and Bo Nix.
Where are you guys at?
I'm gonna go the same as Lucas. Actually, I do think I would rather have Jaden Daniels than Drake May, in my opinion. If I'm building the franchise right now, who would you take? I'd go Jaden Daniels. Obviously, I'm Caleb 1, and I think JJ's 4, and then Penix Nix as well.
Yeah, I think the first three is just how it is, and then JJ at 4, Penix, Nix. I think Jeff, that might have been the same order as you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So me and you, Mike, are higher on Drake May.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, Jeff accidentally just went to go out a different view and kicked himself out of the chat. I'm sure he'll be here joined shortly.
Jeff, we just lost.
Jeff just shot himself.
We're back.
Jeez, man.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Rip Jeff.
Hey, hit a button. Hit a button. Hit the wrong button.
You might hit the solo layout type of thing. Try to change the layout. Removed yourself from the studio. It's okay.
Yeah, my wrist hit a button and I'm like, what happened? I thought I like ended like everything. I'm like, oh no. We'll get one more question before we get out of here. Jesse Adams, mailbag. What do you guys, or who would be a better headliner fight right now? Justin Spiro versus anyone at the place, or Booner versus Smucker's Cinnamon Toast Crunch? Did
you guys see me post that? Did you guys see that on my story? Dude, I found this account on Instagram, boys. We've talked about, off air, we've talked about some different cereals and stuff. Boys, I found this account that does like cereals and like different like Uncrustables and stuff. Unbelievable. Like, I'll show you guys when we get off here, and I put it on my story. If you guys want to go, if you guys want to go follow me on Instagram at Booner Sports, I put it on my story. Unbelievable, dude. It looks like this account that I found, I hit gold, dude. Like some of these foods and stuff that are on this account is just it's I don't think it's ever a thing, and you'll never be able to buy them, but just like thinking about them just blows my mind, dude. A Cinnamon Toast Crunch Uncrustables, boys. What are we doing there? Give me a glass of milk and give me that. I'll have that every day for the rest of my life.
Well, I saw the Spiro over. I don't know what was the first one. Better headliner fight, Spiro versus anyone at the other place. I mean, well, it's not just anyone. I'm not bringing nobody else in. It'd be the man at the top. And Booner versus Smucker's Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I prefer Booner to take down a Smucker's, man. Uncrustables.
Destroy, especially a Cinnamon Toast Crunch one, brother. Oh, I'm telling you guys, when we get off this, go look at my story on Instagram. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean Boone on that one, just because I think you could do like a whole ASMR. That's what people like now, right? The weird ASMR videos, bro. Just eat a Smucker's on camera, and you might get like 1 million views, dude. I mean, seriously. All right, we'll get out of here. Appreciate you guys, man. Seriously, thank you. We'll be back tomorrow. We actually have Corey Woods joining us on Friday. We're gonna have Corey Woods joining us on Friday, so stick around. It's gonna be a great show on Friday. We'll have some guests on. A guest on, rather, and we'll have some great prep for you as always. Until then, guys, we appreciate you.
Love you guys.
Before you leave, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers. We're at 3.66. So if we can get there, that'd be great. If you're already subscribed, well, we thank you. You're already doing your job. Tuning in, you're doing your job. So we appreciate you for that. Thank you to everyone who donated. Thank you guys for tuning in. Leave a 5-star review if you're listening, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow. Have a blessed night.